Greetings, friends. This evening we embark on a journey into the dark, gritty, and wonderfully dreadful realm of medieval labor. Once there was an era when the name on your job title revealed little about your journey, but spoke volumes about the perils of disease and the threat of fire. Before you settle in, I invite you to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe, but only if my work resonates with you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments about where you're joining us from and what time it's in your corner of the world. It's always intriguing to discover the diverse individuals who are coming together from every corner of the globe. Now, let us lower the lights, perhaps activate a fan for that gentle, soothing hum, and prepare to embark on tonight's adventure together. Imagine being born in medieval England, where your aspirations are humble and grounded. Embrace the notion that the path of a knight may not be for you, as it often leads to a rather sharp and pointy fate. Embracing the life of a monk may not be your calling, as it often leans towards the serene and subdued. Thus, you choose the route that offers the smoothest journey. You take on the role of a gong farmer. Gong, should you be curious, does not refer to a musical instrument in this context. It's a term from the medieval times referring to human waste. And a gong farmer was the fortunate individual chosen to take it away. From latrines, cesspits, and privies, a tale unfolds. In the shadowy corners of the medieval world, where the echoes of hearty meals of turnips mingled with the whispers of regret, there lay the humble spots where people sought relief by night. You toiled away, not due to the enigma of your work, but rather because the stench was so overwhelmingly foul that the townspeople chose to forget you were there. In the light of day, with a shovel in hand and a bucket at your side, you stepped forward, perhaps clinging to the remnants of your dignity. As you ventured into the depths of the pit, the murky waters would rise to your waist and beyond, a reflection of the town's fortunes and labors. The delightful tidings. Gong farmers received a respectable wage, often surpassing that of carpenters or thatchers. The unfortunate tidings. You toiled for each coin, steeped in the weight of generations' shared burdens. In the 1300s, concepts of health and safety were far from being at the forefront of people's minds. Beware, for the cesspits may very well give way. The potential for methane to catch fire exists. There exist accounts of gong farmers succumbing to noxious fumes, losing their footing in the mire, and meeting their end in a manner that could only be characterized as the most tragic of farewells. About the instruments of the craft, the quaint corners of the village, a wooden bucket rests, accompanied by a long-handled scoop. Sometimes a donkey makes its appearance, not as a friend, but as a steadfast worker. Dutifully hauling the cart of waste away from the town's heart, the refuse was subsequently cast into designated lay stalls, or repurposed as fertilizer. For what could be more emblematic of organic farming than the remnants of medieval digestion? In the tapestry of society, gong farmers found themselves shunned by the masses. Though the grand feasts were not meant for you, a bond formed with fellow night soil collectors, likely forged in the shared tales of the day's trials and tribulations. What about the scent? You never quite acclimated to it. You have chosen to cease your grievances. In time, it wove itself into the very fabric of who you are. Indeed, the gong farmer may not have brandished a blade or donned an elaborate hat, yet they played a crucial role in preventing medieval cities from being overwhelmed by their own wasteful history. In the shadows, they toiled, the quiet champions of cleanliness, one bucket at a time. And if that seems troubling, just wait. It only spirals further down. Imagine a world where the bustling chaos of city life isn't quite your scene. You seek an experience that feels organic, connected to the great outdoors, intertwined with the wonders of wildlife. Congratulations, you have embarked on a remarkable journey as a leech collector, embracing the noble craft of a medieval artisan who traverses the murky bogs to gather nature's intriguing little vampires. The task at hand was straightforward. Immerse yourself in the tranquil waters of a pond, remain motionless, and allow the leeches to gently cling to your exposed legs, and so it is. You are the lure. They are drawn to you, lured by the warmth of your blood, the missteps of your past, and the weary look that speaks of acceptance. As the slippery creatures cling tightly, you pull them away and toss them into a jar, sealing their fate. Continue on this path until the world begins to blur and your strength wanes, then return to the comfort of your abode for a restful slumber, accompanied by the lurking possibility of an unwelcome infection. This was no mere unconventional pursuit. The days of your leeches found themselves in great demand, as they were the favored tool of medieval medicine's peculiar practice of bloodletting. Feeling the weight of a headache upon you? Extract it. Is there a sense of sorrow lingering in the air? Let us extract a bit of your happiness. A dark shadow looms, a whisper of despair in the air. Perhaps you require just a touch less blood. Barber surgeons had a fondness for leeches akin to the way contemporary influencers adore their ring lights. They held great importance, and that signified the necessity for someone to gather countless numbers of them. Behold, the living feast of the marshlands, a delightful array of flavors and textures that wander through the murky depths. Garments designed for safety? Not quite. Many collectors toiled without shoes or trousers, frequently comprising women or those in dire financial straits. Those fortunate souls donned a skirt. The unfortunate souls bore the marks of their misfortune. And if fate were to deal you a cruel hand, you might return home with leeches clinging on, swelling with satisfaction beneath your knees. Yet, the perils extended far beyond mere blood-sucking. These were not the pristine, glimmering garden ponds one might imagine. Picture a murky expanse where the water lies still, teeming with unseen bacteria, the croaks of frogs echoing in the air, and the occasional goose casting a disapproving glance upon the scene. You ventured into the depths of danger. Facing the lurking threats of tetanus, the chilling grasp of trench foot, and the haunting specter of trench shame. What about the payment? A mere trifle? Perhaps a handful of coins for every dozen leeches? Perhaps a feast awaits. Yet above all, there was a certain fulfillment in playing a part in the intricate dance of bloodletting and the gradual unraveling of well-being, as fate would have it. The journey home was likely to be free from the shadows of danger lurking in the night. None dared to venture near. So you ventured into the depths of human sewage and faced the trials of parasitic pond duty. And now you ponder, what awaits you next on this arduous journey of a career? What if we explored the tale of laying to rest those who fell to the Black Death? Indeed. Ah, esteemed observer, you have now taken on the mantle of a plague-bori. Ah, in the days of yore, the specter of death was an ever-present companion, showing no regard for the formalities of job interviews. This role presented three primary expectations: a shovel in hand, a resilient spirit, and an unwavering boldness towards the perils that lie ahead. Armor for safety. Kindly, at the very least, you could find yourself with a cloth drenched in vinegar. Affixed to your visage, the very least, you possessed nothing but your unwavering hope and a clove of garlic that a stranger insisted would ward off dark spirits. When the plague swept through in the mid-14th century, lives were lost quicker than reason could prevail at a witch trial. Whole communities vanished in the blink of an eye. Remains lay scattered across the streets, filling homes and churches alike. It was inevitable that someone would take the initiative to shift them, that individual. Once upon a time, there was a person who captivated the hearts and minds of many mass. Graves, or plague pits, transformed into the backdrop of your everyday narrative. You would dedicate countless hours to excavating trenches, deep and wide enough to accommodate whole families. At times, there were no coffins at all. Merely a collection of limbs hurriedly swathed in fabric, sometimes paired with a chicken to bring a touch of fortune. Or perhaps it simply found its way here, as if drawn by an unseen force. And do not anticipate appreciation. Individuals steered clear of your presence as if it were a dire contagion. Upon your arrival in the bustling marketplace, it was as if a collective realization swept through the crowd, prompting each person to hastily recall urgent matters elsewhere. You were seen as a harbinger of misfortune, an unwelcome scent, and a source of unease, a formidable force from the medieval era. At this moment, The tasks seem to stretch on without end. There are no weekends, no holidays. The relentless plague showed no mercy, just as you pressed on without pause. Ah, the most challenging aspect. Each day in the line of duty felt like a roll of the dice. Numerous obstacles transformed into what they concealed, particularly following a sneeze or cough that came from an unexpected source. What about the reward? In the realm of possibility, the town council could perhaps offer you a handful of coins or some aged bread. In the realm of experience, one frequently found compensation in the mere act of persisting. Amidst the shadows, a resolute determination lingered in the air. You shielded cities from the crushing burden of mortality. However, we shouldn't idealize it. As you navigated the chaotic puzzle of lifeless forms, a curious thought flickered. In your mind, was that peculiar itch on your arm merely a sign of pests, or a whisper from destiny itself? Step into the enchanting realm of medieval textile production, where the art of fashion intertwined with the magic of fermentation, and you, the diligent fooler, ensured that no wool tunic felt as prickly as a cactus. What do you do for a living? Complicated? Pressed down on the fabric drenched in human urine until it transformed into something that could be mistaken for clothing, rather than the roughness of medieval sandpaper. Picture this: raw wool, with its oily texture and stiff demeanor, clings to everything around it, much like an unpaid intern seeking to make their mark. To transform it into a fabric suitable for wearing, it required the ancient art of fulling, a ritual that entailed immersing the cloth in a potent blend of water, earth, and, indeed, urine. What brings about this question? Stale human urine, rich in ammonia, served as a natural agent to cleanse and soften the fibers. What was the reason for your hours of stomping in it? In a time when the wonders of machinery were yet to grace the earth, your feet stood as a testament to divine craftsmanship, serving the medieval textile industry with unmatched prowess. Ah, this was no mere toe dip into the waters of experience. There you stood, immersed in a murky concoction, rhythmically trampling the fabric beneath your feet, reminiscent of a vintner who had veered off the path of their chosen craft. Oh, you didn't merely stomp once or twice, did you? For hours on end, you immersed yourself in this endeavor. Every single day, for many moons. You found yourself immersed in a veritable sea of medieval aromas, a footbath of scents that lingered from a bygone era, and sorrow, the foul odor. Epic tale so profound was the aversion that entire houses were constructed far from towns, not due to zoning laws, but because the stench of your trade was unbearable to those nearby. Now, let us delve into the realm of health. Amidst the trials of trenchfoot, the sting of ammonia burns, and the enigma of rashes bearing ominous names like God's curse. Your body seemed to wage a relentless war against you. Ah, and should your shoes become thoroughly drenched, they would likely vanish into nothingness by the week's end. What of one's place in society? Let's just say fullers weren't the stars of the banquets. You were endured, much like the uninvited guests at a feast, or that one relative who endlessly rambles about the wonders of herbal remedies. Yet, a sense of stability lingered in the air. Throughout the ages, the quest for clothing has been a constant, and in this realm, wool reigned supreme. As long as people toiled, scratched, and yearned to appear a touch less like untamed creatures, your expertise would always be sought after. Yet, one must ponder the price to be paid. You weren't weaving a tale of elegance. You found yourself immersed in the remnants of others, wishing fervently that the topic of your profession would remain unspoken during the dinner conversation. And yet, in a twist of fate, the situation began to unravel from this point onward. Imagine you've reached your limit with all things fluid, whether they be bodily or otherwise, and you're seeking a role that is decidedly dry in a technical sense. Congratulations, you have ascended to the esteemed role of treadwheel operator, the dedicated artisan within the grand confines of a colossal wooden hamster wheel. Yet rather than receiving a delightful reward at the journey's conclusion, one finds themselves grappling with persistent joint pain and a subtle crisis of existence. In the grand tapestry of cathedral construction, you toiled, hoisting monumental stones into the heavens with sheer strength, all while casting aside any thoughts of your spine's well-being. Imagine a crane, yet the engine is merely you, wandering in circles like a bewildered traveler on a quest. In a time of knights and castles, the ingenious minds of the medieval era pondered a whimsical idea. What if they crafted a colossal wheel, placed a brave soul within, and dared to defy the very laws of physics? A tale of audacity and imagination unfolds. And so, the treadmill crane came into existence. The wheel frequently hung high in the air, suggesting that you weren't merely strolling within its confines. As you traversed the perilous wheel of fate, suspended 40 feet above the ground, you found yourself hoisting boulders that weighed more than your entire lineage put together. Have you stumbled along the way? The force of gravity asserts its dominance. What was once a bustling construction site has transformed into a solemn gathering, a place of unexpected farewell. What is the cadence of your daily life? Step by step, onward we go. From time to time, pause to allow someone to place a piece of bread into your palm, then continue your journey. The wheel lets out a soft squeak, the rope groans with age, and your knees begin to voice their thoughts. And heaven help you if your colleague in the second seat gets a burst of ambition and starts to pick up the pace. In an instant, you find yourself trapped in a nightmarish medieval spin class. What about the standards for safety? Doesn't exist? Fortune smiled upon you if the axle held strong. At times, a careless hand would neglect to fasten the counterweight, sending heavy stones tumbling down, a vivid reflection of the trials and tribulations of one's journey. Is the compensation satisfactory? Not really. Today, you received your compensation in the form of survival, a reward that, in those days, was quite a generous offering at the close of the shift if you still possess. The strength to grasp a spoon, a warm bowl of stew may await you, yet you played a role in a magnificent tale. A grand cathedral stands, a testament to devotion, creativity, and the heights of human ingenuity. For centuries, onlookers would gaze in awe, captivated by the grandeur of it all, yet seldom considering the weary soul behind the scenes, the tireless wheel hamster, grumbling softly about his sore ankles as he toiled to set the stones just right. But hey, at least you had moved on from the days of stomping wool and pea advancement. Are you weary of wandering in endless loops and hoisting boulders that echo the weight of past choices? Perhaps you seek an experience filled with vibrant energy, heightened tension, and the thrilling chance of encountering something that carries both mischief and a few unwelcome surprises. Step into the intriguing world of a rat catcher, the overlooked champion of city cleanliness, if you consider. A champion to be one who charges at critters wielding a stick and questionable judgment. In the medieval world, rats scurried about in abundance. Grain stores, bustling taverns filled with mischief, castles teeming with life, all transformed into lavish abodes for the cleverest of rodents. And the answer to this infestation of pests lay not in poison, traps, or scientific methods. There you stood, a figure with a net in hand, accompanied by a loyal dog, your gaze distant, hinting at untold tales and experiences that linger just beneath the surface. Each day unfolded like a tale of adventure where you navigated the shadowy, confined quarters beneath structures, pursuing elusive rats armed only with your bare hands or a modest club. At times, you relied on ferrets, at other moments, terriers, and occasionally, sheer desperation guided your choices. Amidst the chaos, you navigate carefully, ever watchful to avoid the bites, scratches, or sneezes from the unpredictable creatures that dart around your feet. And let's be clear, these weren't charming little creatures whipping up pastries in a cozy kitchen. These were the wretched creatures of the medieval era, infested with disease, bearing the weight of plague, and driven by an insatiable fury. They survived on scraps, clashed over morsels of bread, and perhaps enjoyed more comprehensive health coverage than you do. What are the instruments of the craft? A burlap sack, a flickering torch, and perhaps a pair of boiled leather gloves. That provided little more defense than a damp napkin. Should fortune smile upon you, you might possess a dog skilled in the art of uncovering nests. In the shadows of misfortune, one might find themselves clutching a flickering torch, accompanied by the echoes of frantic cries. Compensation? Let's just say that pursuing rats won't lead anyone to fortune. Perhaps a handful of coins for each tail spun. Indeed, by the tail, which meant you had to present evidence of your rat conquest. It's reminiscent of a dark, medieval loyalty scheme. In times of trouble, when the shadows of the towns grew long and the whispers of unease filled the air, the townsfolk would seek out the skilled hands of rat catchers. These brave souls would arrive during outbreaks, especially when the unsettling sight of an unusual number of corpses and the dance of fleas became too much to bear. Yet as the frenzy subsided, so too did the funds and the esteem of the public. Dwindling away like a fleeting puddle under the sun, it seemed as though everyone avoided your presence, shying away from conversation and turning a deaf ear to the tales of your day. Yet, beneath the surface, there was a collective sigh of relief that you were among them. For without your presence, the rats would surely claim dominion over the earth or, at the very least, the pantry. Imagine a scenario where your desire is to immerse yourself in the comforts of an indoor environment. Perhaps you have a fondness for children. Perhaps you envision a life of nobility, adorned in luxurious fabrics, savoring delicacies that transcend the mundane. In a grand palace, you find yourself entrusted with the care of a young noble, a role filled with both responsibility and intrigue. It seems quite delightful, doesn't it? Correct. You are the one who bears the brunt of it all, a vibrant embodiment of retribution. In a nutshell, the young prince finds himself in a bit of trouble. You find yourself at the mercy of the lash. Indeed, that was a genuine occupation. Behold, dear young ones, particularly those of noble lineage, were deemed far too significant, too revered. Never face the hand of physical punishment. One mustn't tarnish the reputation of the future king, merely for the whimsical act of feeding gunpowder to the cat. Thus they chose another child, frequently of lesser standing, to be his unwavering companion. And if the prince dared to break the rules, you would endure the lashes. Right there in front of him, as he watched, perhaps feeling a twinge of guilt, though more often than not, was preoccupied with his snacks. It was an unusual kind of delegating one's ethics. It was expected that your bond with the prince would run so deep that he would be filled with sorrow at the sight of your punishment. A charming notion, unless you found yourself in the presence of a nascent despot who believed your cries were a symphony. Your day unfolded as you accompanied the young royal, witnessing their lessons, sharing meals, galloping through the fields, and engaging in the art of swordplay. In the tapestry of his life, you were the trusted companion, the one who shared in the pursuit of knowledge. And, during the stormy moments, the one he turned to when he needed to deflect blame. If he dared to speak back to his tutor, you would face the consequences. He stumbled in Latin, and now you might just find yourself with a few bruises. Unleashed a storm of emotions, time to adopt a weary gait. A journey without a defined path lay ahead. You did not ascend to the role of the senior target or the assistant to the enforcer. You've just crossed that threshold, provided you've navigated through without any lasting twists in your spine. In an unexpected twist, a few whipping boys forged enduring friendships with the very royals who once tormented them. In the end, there's a unique connection forged between two children when one faces the consequences for the other's antics. Yet some vanished from the chronicles, likely after wandering into the forest, choosing to believe that true companionship should not bring such pain. Compensation, lodging, meals, and perhaps a rare note of gratitude no one has ever erected. A monument to a scapegoat. Yet, if fortune smiled upon you, you might don fresh garments and partake in a feast at the prince's table, only to find yourself caught in the chaos of his playful food skirmish. It seems you have grown weary of the nibbles of the vermin and the harsh strikes of nobility. You yearn for moments of peace, the crispness of the outdoors, and a vocation that keeps you away from the company of little ones or furry creatures. Behold the lime burner, figure so devoted to the art of dust inhalation that he rendered chimney sweeps mere wellness influencers in comparison. What do you do for a living? In the heart of a blazing hot kill, limestone undergoes a transformative journey. Okay, emerging as quicklime, a crucial element woven into the fabric of mortar, plaster, agriculture, and, intriguingly, the final resting places of the departed. Indeed, quicklime found its way into the rituals of burial, hastening the process of decomposition in a most intriguing manner. Your craft was evident in every corner, adorning the walls, gracing the fields, and subtly erasing Uncle Jeffrey behind the church. Imagine a grand endeavor where one carefully arranges layers of limestone alongside various fuels, be it wood, peat, or, for the environmentally mindful, dried dung within the formidable embrace of a lime kiln, a massive oven that transforms these elements into something remarkable. Then you would ignite it and let it simmer in the blazing heat for days on end. And by you, I mean you were there beside it, shoveling materials and now and then prodding it with a long stick. Much like a medieval pizza chef, if that pizza were to explode your lungs and set your tunic ablaze. Inhaling the air near a lime kiln felt akin to embracing a volcano while inhaling chalk dust. The air was thick with acrid fumes. Dust danced in every corner, and the ever-present threat of spontaneous combustion loomed like a shadow. With a single gust of wind, you found yourself choking on a concoction of dust and debris as your eyebrows seemed to vanish into thin air. Gear for safeguarding? Ah, with a rag draped over your mouth, if fortune smiled upon you, and wooden clogs adorning your feet. If you were truly living large, what about gloves, kindly? Your calluses were so thick they could be mistaken for a suit of armor. Even more alarming, quicklime has a fierce reaction to water. A sudden rain or an unexpected sweat could cause the powder to hiss, bubble, and sear right through your skin. There's a certain irony in watching oneself gradually fade away, consumed by the very craft that once brought joy. Life among the people? Simple. Your scent was reminiscent of charred landscapes. Your appearance evoked the image of a ghostly chimney. The sounds from your lungs resembled the wheezing of a weary accordion. Yet, in the light of it all, there was a deep-seated respect for your craft among the people. You laid the groundwork for grand structures and, at times, assisted in the somber task of crafting pits for the fallen during times of despair. That's almost like a tale of accomplishments. Yet, with every passing shift, you edged nearer to transforming into a lung-shaped mound of dust. Imagine seeking a role that offers the freedom of flexible hours, the embrace of fresh air, and the independence of minimal supervision. You embrace the night, find authority stifling, and have a steady resolve when it comes to the macabre. Congratulations. You possess the ideal qualities for an individual who delves into the art of resurrection. It's often referred to as a professional grave robber, but not merely an ordinary grave robber. You're not pilfering precious gems or gleaming smiles, but what you seek is the entirety of the form. For the pursuit of knowledge, naturally, completely scholarly. It's kindly overlooked the shovel and the absence of spirit. During the late medieval period, a shift occurred in medical education as schools began to seek out human cadavers for the purpose of dissection. What's the dilemma? The church cast a disapproving gaze upon the practice of dissecting bodies. While the legal avenues for acquiring corpses were as restrictive as a miser's tightly held coin purse, behold, the one who brings forth life anew, intermediary, who connects the realm of the recently interred with the educational discourse of anatomy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, your evenings unfolded in the cemetery, where you stealthily unearthed the recently laid to rest, shrouded in the cloak of night. Ideally within 48 hours before circumstances became too ... soft and pliable. You moved with a swift intensity, as if racing against time, often alongside a companion. One to delve into the depths, one to stand guard, and both to feign innocence. As you prepared to coax a grandparent back into the fold of adventure, coffins were not a concern for you. Overwhelming in weight, deafening in sound, you would burst open the lid, retrieve the body, and occasionally forsake the treasures within. It wasn't an act of stealing, you contended. It was a recycling endeavor with a hint of scientific flair. Indeed, there were those who did not fully embrace your contributions to the realm of medical progress families. For instance, as well as the church and the local authorities. Should you find yourself in a predicament, The consequences could range from a hefty fine to imprisonment or even public disgrace. Though execution is a rare fate and irony not lost when reflecting on the multitude of corpses you've managed, in certain towns, the practice emerged of fortifying graves with cunning traps, iron cages, hefty stones, and even the perilous allure of explosive devices. Indeed, it is true. Nothing conveys eternal slumber quite like a spring-loaded jaw trap standing sentinel over your femur. Yet the call never ceased. In a world where the demand for knowledge often outstrips the means to acquire it, it became a solution, a whisper. In the shadows, more affordable than the lawful paths that others might tread, at times there was even a standing order in place. Solitary adult male, largely unscathed, with no signs of plague evident. Compensation? It's quite satisfactory, particularly for an endeavor that demanded nothing more than possessing a shovel and embracing a certain emptiness within. You reaped greater rewards for each life than what most common folk would see in an entire month. Ah, yes, the esteemed groom of the stool. The role that reveals. Despite the allure of royal existence, there remains a necessity for someone to manage the king's departure plan. If you're curious about the title's meaning, let me assure you, it's quite literal. Your primary responsibility is to support the monarch in his most intimate moments, as he takes his seat upon his luxurious, velvet-lined, gold-trimmed toilet box, the humble stool. What is it that you do? Assist him in cleaning up. Allow that to resonate. This was no mere jest from the past that spiraled out of control. Indeed, it held a place of honor. Indeed, the one who held the esteemed position of the groom of the stool, who was frequently a nobleman, held in unwavering trust by the king. For in that moment, when one stands bare, glistening with effort and caught in the throes of exertion, a bond is forged that transcends the ordinary, connection that few in the realm of nobility could ever hope to attain. You didn't merely handle fabric, you shaped destinies. You held the power to determine who could approach the king during his gatherings in the throne room. You curated his wardrobe, handled his correspondence, and offered guidance on policy matters. It was an unusual interplay of forces. He held the dual roles of the royal custodian and the trusted advisor. The role demanded a steadfast sense of loyalty, an unwavering commitment to confidentiality, and a constitution that could withstand the most challenging of circumstances. Your role may also involve the careful preparation of the stool, making certain that the privy linens are pristine and ready for use, and ensuring the royal derriere is dusted, scented, and always in fine form. Medieval kings were not merely rulers. They engaged in their royal duties with a flair that extended even to their most private moments. Of course, you found yourself bound by an oath of silence, revealing the intimate details of royal bathroom habits to the patrons of the tavern. Could spell disaster for one's career, perhaps even lead to a rather grim fate. Yet in the realm of whispers and intrigue, your insights into the king's culinary choices and bodily functions transformed you into a living testament of royal health, garnering an unexpected wave of fascination among the court. Though it may seem unappealing, the compensation was quite generous. In a realm of opulence, you found yourself feasting alongside the king, basking in the grandeur of nobility, and on occasion, being bestowed with lands or titles, all for your unique and vital role in the royal lavatory. Yet it can be quite a challenge to share one's tales at gatherings. Ah, indeed. I am the one who ensures the king remains untroubled. It doesn't shine as brightly as a knight or a chancellor, does it? Ah, so you envision yourself as a culinary artisan in the enchanting realm of the Middle Ages. How charming? Cast? Aside the allure of Michelin stars, their quest is for a meal that brings no harm to anyone. In the realm of medieval kitchens, your role transcended the mere art of creating delightful dishes. It was primarily focused on averting culinary catastrophes that could lead to dire consequences for the unsuspecting diners. You weren't crafting your dish with the finest ingredients. You were merely salvaging the least spoiled ones. The substance emitted a scent that was largely pleasant, with only the slightest hint of movement now and then. Among your tools was a colossal cauldron, a wooden spoon that could rival a battle axe in size, and a fierce fire that threatened to either scorch your stew or singe your eyebrows. At times, it can be a blend of both worlds. What we mean to what we mean to what way with my ass some after 10 with my the way I do we to so to die sometime I we just I why I'm to my we come I did I to the what's it what's so sad for when so in a world filled with flavors and aromas, there existed a treasure trove of delightful recipes waiting to be discovered.
Oh.
Would you like to embark on a culinary adventure and explore these enchanting creations? In the days of yore, a recipe might unfold as follows. Procure some meat, immerse it in boiling water, sprinkle in a handful of fragrant herbs, and offer a prayer to the heavens. The amounts were unclear, the directions even more so, and if anyone dared to voice a grievance, the response was simply that it was done in a rustic manner. Serving in an esteemed household brought with it elevated expectations, along with elaborate methods to conceal any signs of spoilage. Spices such as pepper, cinnamon, and cloves served not merely to enhance flavor, but to cloak the ominous taste of despair. Should the meat still quiver, simply sprinkle in more saffron. The challenge has been overcome. Once upon a time, in a world filled with clucking and feathers, there existed a realm dedicated to the wonders of poultry. Just moments ago, I was adorned with feathers. Once upon a time, in the depths of the shimmering sea, there lived a fish. One can only hope the blinking has ceased. All that remained found its way into the pot. A hearty blend of vegetables, barley, and bits of meat simmered together until they yielded their essence. Yet the true terror lay in the celebration of the feast day. In a bustling kitchen, filled with the chatter of hundreds of guests and the aroma of dozens of dishes, shadows danced in the dim light. The air was thick with smoke, and the ceiling dripped with grease, while dogs roamed freely, their tongues sweeping across the floor and occasionally tasting the remnants of meals. Amidst this chaotic scene, one scullery boy seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving behind an air of mystery. In your hands lay the art of intricate details, where confections and meats transformed into graceful swans, fierce dragons, or revered saints. Indeed, you were tasked with crafting a saint from delicate pastry, while also managing to boil 50 cabbages in the midst of it all. If it fell apart, who do you think took the heat? Certainly not St. John the Melty, without a doubt. Injuries, ailments, and the occasional bout of foodborne illness were simply woven into the fabric of the work. In a time devoid of refrigeration, where health inspectors were mere whispers of a distant future, and sympathy was a rare commodity, the Lord's pigeon pie met its dramatic fate, bursting forth with a chaotic splendor. Yet, if you succeeded in avoiding the misfortune of poisoning someone of significance, you just might hold on to your position. For the time being, enjoy your meal. So you embrace the challenge of toil, unafraid of the sweat and effort it demands. Perhaps the great expanse of nature calls to you. Perhaps you believe that hoisting substantial weights will grant you biceps fit for a grand mural in a cathedral. Step into the world of a quarryman, where the daily battle is against the unyielding stones. Indeed, the stones often emerge victorious. In the heart of medieval times, the life of a quarryman unfolded with the first light of dawn, a relentless rhythm that persisted until the very moment your weary arms could no longer heed your call. What is it that you seek to accomplish? Shatter and transport massive boulders from the depths of the earth using only basic implements and the raw power of questionable decisions. No elaborate machinery. No high-tech gadgets, just the raw power of hammers, chisels, and wedges, fueled by a fierce personal grudge against granite. One would begin by driving iron spikes into the natural cracks of the rock, a method that proved effective in time, provided one struck the same spot with relentless force, again and again, as the sounds of the world gradually faded away.
Oh, 4.
A thrilling twist? Consider pouring cold water into the hot cracks, aiming to create a dramatic shattering of the stone, for when your work delves into the realm of thermodynamics, it often signals that a significant mishap has unfolded. Whispers of dust all around you, within your breath, in your smile, in your sustenance. In a time when safety goggles were but a dream, you found yourself squinting, praying that today wouldn't be the fateful day a wayward flake of limestone chose to make an unwelcome acquaintance with your cornea. Let us not overlook the genuine excitement that comes from cave-ins and the peril of falling slabs. One misstep, and you might unleash a cascade of chaos, filled with frantic cries and a rather uncomfortable workers' compensation hearing, where the priest would simply remark, "Well, he met his end doing what he despised. What awaits you as a prize? Just a handful of coins, a weary back, and the hope that your stones could someday transform into a grand cathedral, mysterious dungeon, or perhaps even a humble privy wall. What will endure through time? Should fortune smile upon you, you might find yourself assigned to quarries rich in limestone or sandstone, those gentle stones that yield easily to the touch. If not, you may discover yourself laboring against granite, which is as accommodating as a tax collector nursing a hangover. What is your standing in society? In a realm that dances on the edge of the ordinary, a figure lingers, caught in the whispers of the past, straddling the line between mere observer and the haunting tales that echo through the night. Whispers of love on the horizon. Only if one had a penchant for endless muck and the art of breathy exchanges. But hey, at least you found yourself in the great outdoors. Ah, so you believe you've crafted a stellar cardio routine, have you? Imagine the life of a wartime messenger in the Middle Ages, where each day was a blend of endurance and peril. You'd be racing against time, navigating the treacherous landscape of diplomacy, all while facing the ever-looming threat of being misidentified as an enemy spy. Often due to sheer misfortune, the essence of your role was straightforward. Navigate treacherous landscapes teeming with foes, all while safeguarding crucial military secrets from the perils of being shot, stabbed, trampled, devoured, or captured. Imagine yourself as a relic from a bygone era, a vessel of knowledge and tales, yet lacking the safeguards of modernity and facing the perils of existence with a far greater frequency. Swift action was crucial. One had to be swift enough to evade the galloping steeds, clever enough to outsmart the marauders, and at times raise one's voice in a desperate plea, uttering the words, "Don't kill me, I work here," in a variety of tongues. If you were unable to run, you took to the saddle, yet horses drew attention to you. And in the chaos of a war zone, being seen was the last thing you desired. Less, of course, you were a banner waving in the wind. What tales do your deliveries hold? Commands for battle, clandestine troop maneuvers, demands for surrender, or clumsy missives detailing the king's tardy reinforcements, who arrived 3 weeks late and inebriated. Should you find yourself in their grasp, the shadows of torment may loom, seeking to extract the secrets you hold. Should you find yourself discovered by your own comrades while in the midst of a uniform change, you could easily be misjudged as a spy facing the dire consequence of hanging before you have the chance to utter, "Wrong camp, my apologies." The weather remained indifferent. One was called to brave the element storms, mud, snow, or the relentless sun, while ensuring that a precious scroll remained untouched by the chaos. For nothing spells disaster quite like a soggy mess of ink. At times, you became the bearer of news amidst the chaos of battle, darting through the tumult of clashing forces to relay to a commander whether the left flank had crumbled or strayed off in pursuit of a meal. Bowman indifference reigned. Ah, the cavalry. I was unable to catch a glimpse of you. What about the others? Engaged in their fierce battle, they failed to notice the plea, "Spare the one with the parchment from their blades." And if you made it through the delivery, can you believe what comes next? It is essential to return to where it all began. Compensation? Not too shabby, provided you were quick on your feet, subtle in your movements, and possessed an uncanny intuition for peril. What? Are the chances of making it through? Just a notch above being launched from a catapult, but only just. Yet, despite the dangers it posed, the role carried an unusual sense of honor. You were the delicate strand weaving together the might of armies, the whisper that bridged the gap. Between rulers, the one who dashed forward while others sought shelter. For there is no greater testament to valor than the swift delivery of unwelcome tidings. Ah, the blacksmith, the heart of the medieval town, a master of fire and metal. Blending skill and artistry, tirelessly toiling in a dance of heat and sweat when it came to the art of transforming metal, where the heat made it shine like the sun and the rhythmic strike of a hammer coaxed it into submission. You were the master of the craft. What tales does your workspace hold? A forge ablaze with heat, reminiscent of a knight's armpit in the sweltering July sun. Brimming with soot, flying sparks, and a cacophony loud enough to chase away any semblance of tranquility. The village stirred not from the crow of a rooster, but from the thunderous, bone-shaking clank-clank-clank of your daily metal symphony. In the heart of the village, the blacksmiths were the artisans of creation, forging every tool and weapon that shaped the lives of the people. Horseshoes, plowshares, swords, nails, armor, hinges, and around 600 other items that people shattered. Each week, all of which they desired immediately. Go, great artisan of the forge, my ox has lost a shoe. Mighty wielder of the hammer, my gate's hinge emits a sorrowful squeak. I seek a new sword, for this one has lost its strength and bends. Too easily. All adored you until the moment you asked for payment. In that moment, a spark of recognition ignited within them as they recalled, Brother Thomas makes nails on the side. Your body, weathered and scarred, with one ear dulled to sound, and your dominant arm resembling the sturdy trunk of an ancient tree. The possibilities of romance were quite promising. You possessed strength and a striking, enduring gaze framed by dark eyeliner, yet engaging in casual conversation proved challenging. When each utterance was interrupted by a fit of coughing and an enigmatic flare of fire erupting from behind, let us delve into the realm of peril. Fiery metal, fiery bursts of light, iron that shatters rather than yields. Heavy weights that show no concern for your feet, bellows that sometimes ignite simply for the thrill of it. In a fleeting moment of distraction, your beard transforms into a flickering candle. What if you served a grand castle or a mighty army? Congratulations. You've embarked on a journey of crafting weapons for those who prefer to settle their differences. With a swing of an axe, may you find favor in the urgency that comes with a blade at your back. Yet through it all, the blacksmith remained indispensable. You were the very essence of innovation, the town's go-to hero for every challenge that arose in an era long past. Before the advent of engineers, you were crafting the very tools that would shape the world. Long before the rise of influencers, you were the one weaving the fabric of trends. You crafted the essentials for survival, all the while adding a touch of flair to your endeavors. Yet the statues never came to be. Another piece of shattered metal, with a customer inquiring if the price would drop without the ornate twists. Indeed, a moment to ponder. The minstrel, the nomadic artist. The bard with a lute, tale from the past, akin to a captivating broadcast that no one requested, yet found themselves unable to ignore while gathered in the Lord's grand hall. Embracing the life of a bard evokes a sense of enchantment, until you come to understand that your role is a blend of melody maker, rumor weaver, jester of the court, and a constant struggle against the chill and hunger. You journeyed from village to village, carrying only your melodies, your tales, and a lingering cough that raised eyebrows. In your verses, you wove tales of monarchs, fierce conflicts, star-crossed souls, and mythical beasts that might have merely been oversized reptiles. Anything to secure a coin, a meal, or at the very least, avoid the onslaught of turnips. performance unfolded in its own unique way. On a moonlit evening, you would find yourself enchanting lords and ladies in a hall aglow with flickering candles. In the next moment, you found yourself weaving through a crowd of rowdy peasants in a dimly lit tavern, the air thick with smoke. As a voice rang out, urging, "Play the one where the knight meets his fate," you had two for that tune brought in the dough. The true test wasn't just recalling the words, but navigating the intricate web of politics that surrounded you. 1. Misstep in speaking of the Lord's haircut, and you find yourself woven into the next tragic ballad of execution. The boundary separating sharp wit from treacherous affront was perilously narrow and vigilantly guarded. In those times, one was also tasked with the art of memorizing history, which in the context of the medieval era meant embracing whatever narrative the patron wished to be accepted as truth. Did Sir Godfrey emerge victorious in the battle? It holds no significance. When it comes to dinner, Sir Godfrey truly outdid himself.
Ow.
What about cleanliness? Let's just say that those who weave tales were celebrated more for their atmosphere than their aroma. Infestations of lice and fleas, along with boots that bore the marks of wear and tear, were the norm. Your garments carried the scent of charred timber and disappointment, yet you compensated with charisma, cleverness, and an uncanny knack for pairing sword with board in perfect harmony. Yet the strength remained within your grasp. You crafted the collective recollection of the past. Your ability to share information is unmatched, echoing through the streets like a herald with a booming voice. You were a master of medieval promotion, weaving melodies and tales. With a touch of elegance and no hint of embarrassment, every so often, fortune would smile upon you, granting the chance to dwell within the grand halls of nobility, crafting melodies for joyous unions and valiant quests. Until you wove together honor with honor and discovered your way back onto the path. Indeed, the life of the bard was filled with romance and adventure in a realm of possibilities. In the realm of action, it was a chilling experience, filled with discomfort and wholly reliant on your knack for crafting rhyming couplets in the heat of the moment. It started with murmurs, soft murmurs of sails that resemble the wings of dragons, of warriors adorned. With iron beards and eyes that mirror the stillness of frozen oceans, the Seine, a steadfast companion to Paris, flowed wide and proud, embodying a tranquil spirit. As the spring of 845 unfolded, the river transformed into a harbinger of caution. One by one, the Frankish towns along the coast succumbed to an eerie stillness, devoid of bells ringing or smoke rising from hearths. Only the remnants of destruction and the crimson tide bore witness to the tragedy that had unfolded. As whispers of the impending arrival spread through the streets of Paris, it became clear that the question was no longer whether the Norsemen would come, but rather when they would arrive. It was a moment filled with anticipation, wondering just how severe the outcome would be this time around. Yet this was no ordinary raid. This was not merely a ragtag group of marauders in search of treasure and livestock. Behold, the tale of Ragnar Lothbrok unfolds. To the Franks, his name resonated like a mighty thunderclap, shattering the silence of a sacred church. Ragnar, a figure of legend who once boasted a lineage tracing back to Odin himself. Ragnar, a figure of legend, whose sons would later cast a shadow of fear across Europe, was, in this very moment, a vibrant force of life, exuding charisma and brimming with an insatiable thirst for conquest. With 120 longships and over 5,000 warriors at his side, he boldly approached Paris, not in stealth, but with the might of an army, made his presence known. His sails danced with shadows upon the river banks. The cadence of oars stirred the Seine, echoing the relentless march of destiny. Each monastery and village that lined the river faced devastation, their treasures taken, flames consuming their homes, and their people captured. In solemn reverence, the Franks offered their prayers. In a time of turmoil, their king, Charles the Bald, hurriedly sought to fortify his defenses, yet his kingdom was already burdened by the weight of civil strife and internal discord. The church cried out for a touch from the heavens, The nobles engaged in a heated debate, each passionately advocating for the bridge they believed was most worthy of defense. In the midst of it all, Ragnar continued to row, his determination unwavering. He relied not on siege engines or intricate strategies. He possessed a blazing spirit, a sense of trepidation, and the endless passage of moments. Parisians perched upon their incomplete barriers, gazing as the river deepened with the shadows of impending doom. Mothers concealed their little ones in the depths of wine cellars. The unwavering resolve, the priests clutched the relics, their fingers firm and steadfast. In a desperate frenzy, the king's messengers, drenched in sweat and trembling with fear, stumbled through the streets, their words barely forming as they implored the neighboring cities for aid that would inevitably come too late. The Norse had transcended the realm of whispered legends. They stood before us, undeniably real. There they stood, right before us, and at their helm stood Ragnar, a figure of laughter and wildness poised to carve his name into the annals of history. They were unmistakable. Slender vessels glide along the river's surface, reminiscent of serpents in motion. Their bows intricately sculpted into fierce creatures, eyes adorned to repel malevolent spirits. But this time, the darkness had already taken its place among us. Ragnar's fleet was not merely a disorganized assembly of fishermen who had taken up the mantle of raiders. These were seasoned warriors, forged in the fires of countless battles across England, Ireland, and the North Sea. Each long ship was a vessel of power, propelled by warriors who counted the passage of time in skirmishes and sacrifice. Their shields were arranged in orderly lines along the edges, creating a formidable barrier of vibrant demise. Behind them loomed fierce warriors, their braided hair swaying in the wind and tattooed arms glistening under the fading light. Some donned chainmail, a grim trophy taken from fallen Frankish foes, while others stood bare-chested, their skin painted with mud and ash. A fearsome display meant to instill dread in the hearts of their enemies, and thus it came to fruition. As Ragnar's ships glided up the Seine, each village and abbey they passed transformed into a prelude for the grand performance to come. Ah, Paris! Flames danced upon the steeples of the churches. Clergymen faced brutal fates, either meeting their end in violence or being taken away in chains. Those brave Frankish soldiers who chose to stand against the tide met a grim fate, skewered and cast into the flowing river. And if fortune smiled upon the villagers, they found themselves only stripped of their possessions. Otherwise, they faced the flames, losing all they held dear. Ragnar chose to spare some, not from compassion, but as a clever strategy. He sought to send whispers of his fury to Paris ahead of his arrival. He desired the city to simmer in its own fear, and thus it came to fruition. The true terror of this fleet lay not merely in its sheer numbers. It was the harmony of movement. These were not wild warriors charging heedlessly into battle. Ragnar orchestrated his forces with the precision of a grand strategist, each move calculated and deliberate. Some ventured deep into the land, plundering sacred places such as the monastery of St. Denis. Others stood watch over the vessels, and forever the river flowed as their pathway and source of life. And then, as if drawn from the pages of a dramatic tale, they arrived at the gates of Paris. In the heart of the Frankish capital, a place still haunted by the shadows of civil wars, famine, and plague, a new threat emerged: an army that came, not to parley, but to ravage and plunder. At the city walls, Ragnar commanded the flames to consume the captured Frankish villages, their smoldering remains visible from the gates. Smoke ascended, weaving a tale of foreboding. Wasn't merely a menace to the city. He was challenging them to rise against him, as the flames danced upon the Seine. Casting flickering shadows on his painted sails, Ragnar gazed at the stone walls of Paris, not with trepidation or awe, but with an insatiable yearning. For Ragnar, Paris was not merely a challenge, it was a coveted treasure waiting to be claimed. In the year 845, Paris had yet to transform into the grand fortress it would become in the centuries to follow. In a city nestled upon the Ile de la Cite, wooden bridges embraced its edges, while makeshift walls stood guard, cradling the stories within. Their guardians were scarce, comprised mainly of local militia, sword-wielding monks, and nobles who cared more for their titles than the art of battle. In essence, it was a feast prepared for Ragnar. Without hesitation, the Viking chieftain sprang into action. As he arrived, he initiated a daring assault on the fringes, seeking to gauge the determination of those who stood in defense. What he discovered was utterly amusing. The Frankish response unfolded in a chaotic manner, marked by hesitation and fear. With unwavering determination, Ragnar advanced. Besieging the very core of Paris, he split his forces. Circling the island from both sides of the river, the Seine was his domain now, with no boats coming in or going out. Commerce came to a halt, sustenance seeped in, while fear ebbed away. Ragnar's men gathered around the flickering campfires, their laughter mingling with the crackling flames as they tossed dice, sipped mead, and honed their blades, all while the distant city walls loomed nearby. They were well acquainted with the art of anticipation. As time drags on, the strength of the hunted begins to wane, as Paris found herself battling against the tide. Archers took their positions along the bridges, poised and ready for what was to come. The bells chimed endlessly. In the dim light of the chapel, priests gathered thrice daily, their voices rising in fervent supplication, seeking a glimpse of divine grace, all the while turning a blind eye to the palpable dread that hung thick. In the atmosphere, in a bold move, the Franks launched a counterattack. Emerging from one of the bridges, yet fate had other plans, leading them to a calamitous end. With cunning strategy, Ragnar's warriors pretended to flee, drawing the Franks into the vast expanse of open land, where they lay in wait to strike with precision. Figures drifted toward the city, swollen and shattered. Ragnar are always the master of theatrics, took things to the next level. In a fierce skirmish, he sees dozens of Frankish soldiers, weaving a tale of valor and conquest. Rather than demanding a ransom, he chose to crucify them. Right there on the riverbanks, he abandoned their bodies for all of Paris to witness, as if proclaiming, "Your prayers hold no significance to me." Within the confines, hunger started its gradual advance. As the sun rose and set, the supplies of food grew ever scarcer, spirits began to falter, and the shadow of illness crept closer. The subjects cast their gazes upon their ruler, Charles the Bald, yet he was absent from their sight. He had escaped to safety as his city was engulfed in flames. And what of Ragnar? He remained completely composed, not a bead of sweat in sight. He lingered by the flickering flames, honing his axe with care, his gaze fixed on the curling smoke that danced upward from the churches he had set ablaze, a smile playing on his lips. The siege was not merely unfolding, it was transforming into a work of art. As the flames flickered and hunger gnawed at the heart of Paris, King Charles the Bald found himself in the throes of a regal crisis. From the sanctuary of his far-off court, he wandered besieged and trembled with unease. Fate had other plans, and it unfolded in a way he never anticipated, not while he was in charge. Once upon a time, there was a king of the Carolingian dynasty, proud descendant of Charlemagne, the mighty hammer that struck down the pagans, and so it came to pass that he found himself outwitted by a pagan pirate, whose striking cheekbones and fiery disposition left him both intrigued and exasperated. Charles faced challenges. Once upon a time there existed a kingdom, but it was not whole. It was fractured and divided. In a time of great division, the Frankish Empire lay fractured, with rival factions vying for power, and Charles found himself surrounded by nobles whose loyalty was as flimsy as wet bread. Each plea for support was met with a chorus of justifications. "We stand vigilant over our own realms, or may fortune favor you, your majesty." No one was eager to send their forces into the relentless jaws of Ragnar's slaughter. The second challenge was finances, or rather, the absence of them. The treasury lay bare, a shadow of its former self, ravaged by the relentless tides of internal strife and extravagant religious expenditures. Yet, even more painful was the sting of humiliation. Settling the debts with the Vikings cast a shadow over the dignity of the crown, yet Charles found himself with dwindling choices, and the notion of honor would do little to warm his throne should Ragnar choose to lay siege to the capital. Thus, embarked on a quest to negotiate. Frantic messengers raced forth, bearing offers of gold, supplies, and even titles, pleading for the Vikings to depart. Yet Ragnar stood resolute. He sought substance, not mere words. He yearned for Paris, prepared to bide his time until the inhabitants turned on one another in a desperate feast. Then arrived the fateful wager. In a flurry of urgency, Charles gathered a makeshift army, uniting those who would stand by his side in the face of impending challenges. Just a humble assembly, a motley crew of unrefined villagers, regional lords, and those eager to barter their existence for a mere handful of coins. What was their quest? Shatter the confines and liberate the realm. It unfolded just as one might anticipate. Ragnar sensed the stirrings of a plot long before the first boot met the riverbank's edge. His men lay in wait, springing forth to surprise the relief force just beyond the fringes. What unfolded was a grim tale of devastation. Charles's reinforcements met a grim fate, being mercilessly butchered, routed, or taken captive. The captured met their fate with Ragnar's signature style, a display both dramatic and unforgettable. Some dangled from the branches, while others became the focus of aim and skill. In the grand halls of his court, Charles absorbed the news as if struck by a sudden blow to the gut. He had met his defeat. Their forces had faltered. Paris found itself in a moment suspended, as if the very essence of time had slipped away. And so, with a heavy heart and a taste of regret lingering on his tongue, Charles reached for the final card in his hand, the clandestine exchange. For in moments when blades falter, the allure of gold resonates. Ultimately, it was neither faith, nor fire, nor the might of Frankish steel that preserved the heart of Paris. It gleamed with a silvery sheen. Treasure trove of shimmering silver awaits. Charles the Bald, stripped of armies and devoid of justifications, faced the grim reality that every ruler fears. He struck a bargain. It lacked courage. It lacked grandeur. It was a tale of endurance, and it arrived with a price that stung with shame. 7,000 livres of silver, a treasure gleaming with promise and tales untold. Behold, a bounty exceeding 2.5 tons of riches awaits. So substantial, it could bring a region to its knees, and so entertaining it would surely cause Ragnar's beard to quiver with delight. Yet Charles found himself in a position of vulnerability. He found himself bargaining from a humble position on his knees. With hands quivering and coin sacks straining at the seams, his envoys made their way to Ragnar's camp. Without a hint of celebration, there are no dangers present. A heartfelt cry for help. Embrace the silver. Venture beyond the city's embrace. And perhaps, just perhaps, grant us a touch of dignity. Ragnar, with the poise of a seasoned expert, refrained from reveling in his triumph. Not right away, at least. He leaned in, narrowed his eyes in contemplation, and likely feigned hesitation, to enhance the moment with a touch of theatrics. Yet, naturally, he accepted it. He had not led 5,000 warriors across half of France, merely to engage in a trivial game of destruction against some unimpressive walls. He arrived in search of riches, and the Frankish king had just unveiled the hidden vault. The transfer lacked any sense of grandeur. It was a mere exchange. Chest after chest of gleaming silver was carefully transported to the waiting Viking ships. Each piece, a treasure of tales yet to be told, as the Franks observed in quietude. The Vikings beheld the scene with unbridled joy. Some twirled and swayed, lost in the rhythm of the moment. Others indulged in their drinks. A handful engaged in spirited discussion about whether to accept the funds and dismiss the city regardless. Yet Ragnar, always the strategist, prioritized his honor above all else. In choosing to accept the ransom and spare Paris, he crafted a message that resonated far more powerfully than any flame or weapon ever could. I hold the power to unravel you. Yet, I find myself under no obligation to do so.
Ace. Simply settle, though.
Payment, please. It was a clash of commerce, Viking style. The Franks stood in disbelief. Once upon a time, a king, in a moment of desperation, parted with a vast treasure to a fearsome pagan warlord, allowing him to depart unscathed across the waters. The clergy struggled to breathe amidst the thick clouds of incense. Behind the heavy doors, the nobles simmered with barely contained fury. Yet what of the citizens? They felt a profound sense of gratitude for the gift of life. The siege has come to an end. The bridges stood unburdened, ready for the journey. Ahead, the flames flickered and faded away. And what of Ragnar? With the silver carefully stowed, he unfurled his sails and set forth on the voyage back to familiar shores. Triumphant, unblemished, compensated as royalty by a man who truly held the crown. And behind him Paris lingered in a haze of embers. Not in ruins, but cloaked in shame. With silver clinking in his hull and smoke curling in the distance, Ragnar steered his longships down the Seine once more. Not as a fugitive escaping, but as a victor leaving with his head held high. His warriors sang, their voices resonating against the riverbanks like the triumphant cackle of a cunning trickster who had evaded capture. Ragnar had not merely triumphed in a battle, he had triumphed over a legend. As the fleet meandered downstream, they encountered once more the same desolate villages, charred abbeys, and pillaged monasteries that had felt their wrath on the journey up. Nothing could hinder their journey. The Franks would never have the audacity, not after the events that unfolded in Paris, not after witnessing their sovereign diminish to mere numbers on a ledger. In the annals of time, there are whispers of Ragnar, whose vessel was so burdened with silver that he was compelled to cast some into the river, lest he sink beneath the weight of his treasure. Some say he showcased the crucified Frankish prisoners. As a final offering, regardless of the reality, one fact remains undeniable. Ragnar departed from Francia, his pockets fuller, his reputation darker, and his skin untouched by harm. No genuine efforts were made to hinder his progress. Charles the Bold, nursing his bruises, felt no desire for yet another defeat. Yet even if he had the will, the means, and the faith of his people had slipped through his fingers, leaving him powerless to act. He had settled his debt with the wolf, yet now he found himself haunted by the lingering scent of blood at his doorstep. 4. Ragnar the Journey Home was a tale of transformation. It was a grand celebration of triumph. His fame surged throughout Europe. To the Norse, he was a living legend, a testament to the favor bestowed upon the daring by the gods. To the Franks, he was a haunting presence from which there was no escape. To his fellow Viking leaders, he had become the epitome of excellence in the art of raiding. Ignite, still fear, and then receive your reward for departing. Gosh. The scar etched upon the soul ran deeper than the sharpest of knives. In the end, Ragnar did not conquer Paris through ladders or siege engines. With a heart full of trepidation, flames of passion, and a daring spirit, he shattered it. And that might have been the most chilling moment of all. He had the power to seize the city, yet he chose a different path. As the dragon-headed ships vanished beyond the horizon, one truth lingered unmistakably in the air. Ragnar Lothbrok had just pulled off a daring heist against one of the mightiest kings in Christendom, sailing away unscathed, a true master of his craft. The era of the Viking had passed into the annals of history. It had come to pass. As the dragon ships faded into the mist and the river fell into a hushed stillness, Paris found no reason to rejoice. It breathed out, gradually, unsteadily, as if a city was stirring from a haunting dream. The battle had ended, yet the echoes of its horrors were only just beginning to unfold. The city was thick with the acrid scent of smoke, mingling with the pungent odor of sweat and the lingering essence of unwashed dread. The bridges bore the marks of flames, the churches stood in ruin, and the streets were strewn with the remnants of those who dared to resist, though the walls remained upright. The notion of safety had crumbled into nothingness. Figures emerged from the shadows of cellars and crypts, their eyes vacant and haunted, though they awaited the return of the Norse to complete their grim task. The initial return was not a glimmer of hope, but rather a heavy shroud of blame. Hands gestured wildly, each one directing attention to a different path. The clergy cast their accusations upon the king, deeming him a coward in their fervent discourse. Amidst the grand halls, the nobles cast their accusations like shadows, each one pointing fingers at the other for the lack of timely assistance. The crowd cast their accusations in equal measure. And suspended in the air was the harsh reality. Charles the Bald, having settled with his foes, turned his back on his capital, allowing it to languish in neglect. It was impossible to dress it up as a strategic withdrawal or artful negotiation. All were aware of its nature, a disbursement stemming from sheer anxiety. The Church endeavored to weave the survival of Paris into a tale of divine intervention, framing it as a trial of faith or a portent of forthcoming salvation, yet the people were wise to the truth. It was not celestial beings who had granted them mercy. It gleamed with a silvery sheen. To add to the unfolding drama, the ransom had ravaged the royal treasury. Inflation has taken an upward turn. The burden of taxes has risen dramatically. Monasteries mourned the loss of their cherished relics. The countryside, burdened by the scars of civil war and famine, trembled under the weight of its struggles. As the days unfolded, the tale of Ragnar Lothbrok soared to new heights, while the power of the Carolingian throne dwindled in the shadows. The military consequences were even more severe. Ragnar had unveiled the hidden vulnerabilities of Frankish defenses. He relied not on catapults or battering rams. All he sought was a flowing river and a purpose to ignite his journey. Other Norse leaders began to pay attention. If Paris could be stirred so effortlessly, what other treasures lay waiting to be claimed? And perhaps the most chilling of all was the sense that this was not the conclusion. Once upon a time, it was the beginning. A captivating introduction, cautionary tale. Indeed, Paris had endured. Yet it had also endured humiliation, carried scars, and was compelled to purchase its own existence. The kind of wound that lingers, refusing to fade away swiftly in the hushed aftermath. A single question hung in the air, weaving through the remnants of shattered gates and the sacred whispers of worn floors. What unfolds when the next Ragnar makes its entrance? The tale of the raid on Paris in 845 did not conclude. When Ragnar set his sails for home, in reality, it commenced as something far more lasting. A tale woven with threads of fear, cunning, and cultural supremacy that resonated across Europe for ages. Upon learning of Ragnar's remarkable feats, other Viking leaders eagerly recorded his exploits and prepared their ships for the journey ahead. The tale of the Frankish ransom traveled swiftly across the north, bringing with it a profound revelation. Your legacy doesn't hinge on a grand demise in combat. One could also leave this world with riches in hand. Ragnar had revealed that the treasures of fearful monarchs were more abundant than those found in the ashes of devastated towns. Before long, marauders from the lands of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden set their sights on the waters of the Seine, the Loire, and the Rhine. They had transformed beyond mere reckless marauders. They were merchants wielding axes. In Francia, the Viking raids transformed into yearly occurrences, resembling dark, blood-soaked celebrations. With every summer came fresh fleets, rising demands, and the allure of new ransoms. Ragnar's playbook transformed into a guiding narrative. Race with the wind, hit with precision, instill fear in the hearts of many, and earn your reward as you depart. In a time of uncertainty, cities turned to silver, not as a means of commerce, but as a shield against the unknown. Monasteries concealed their sacred relics and the remains of saints, not from devotion but from trepidation. What was the reaction of the Franks? Prepare yourself and seek divine guidance. Yet it fell short. As the seasons passed, the fierce Viking raids gradually transformed into thriving settlements. First came the winter camps, followed by the fortresses. And then the towns emerged, as the 9th century drew to a close. The Norsemen had established enduring strongholds in Francia, including the region that would eventually be known as Normandy, a name that translates to the land of the Northmen. It all began with Ragnar's legendary siege of Paris. And what of Ragnar? His tale expanded far beyond the realm of combat. Melodies filled the air, tales unfolded. Legends whisper of his later assaults on the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, a tale where he met his end in a pit of snakes, laughing defiantly as life slipped away. Some say he spent his final days in ease, observing as his sons waged war across Europe in his honor, regardless of the reality. The legendary portrayal of Ragnar, the clever, fierce, and steadfast leader of warriors, had become eternal. He had transcended the ordinary. He had become an embodiment of style and grace, a tale of how one cunning leader might seize the opportunity in a divided realm, shatter its sense of honor, and depart as a figure of legend. The siege of Paris was more than a mere triumph for the Vikings. It served as a blueprint for their future conquests and supremacy. Paris endured, yet it would forever bear the marks of change. The tale of Ragnar's siege etched itself into the very fabric of the city, haunting the dreams of its clergy and shaping the decisions of every ruler who came after Charles the Bald. It transcended mere narrative. It served as a cautionary tale, a testament to the fragility of even the most powerful city, vulnerable to the onslaught of a lone figure in a long ship, armed solely with flames, determination, and an insatiable hunger for conquest. The reaction from the Franks in the years that came after was steeped in a sense of unease and suspicion. Paris embarked on a journey of transformation, strengthening itself not merely through robust walls and resilient bridges, but also through the crafting of thoughtful policies. Along the banks of the Seine, watchtowers stood tall, their presence a fierce reminder of the vigilance over river traffic. The monarchy, battered and shamed, embarked on a painstaking journey to reclaim its dignity, reforming the military and consolidating power in a bid for respectability. In time, these arduous lessons forged the foundation for what would rise as the Capetian dynasty, shaping the destiny of France, yet the shadows of trauma remained. For the typical Parisian, the name Ragnar held a significance that transcended mere legend. It resonated on a deeply personal level. Parents wielded it as a tool to instill fear in children, guiding them toward obedience. Complete your tasks, lest the Northmen arrive, in the hearts of merchants and monks. The echoes of screams lingered in the air, mingling with the dark tendrils of smoke that curled upwards, leaving behind an eerie silence that enveloped the streets. As the years rolled on, the sight of a foreign sail on the horizon would stir the old men to murmur, "They've come again." Yet the legacy held more than just fear. The siege sparked an unusual cultural exchange, though it was steeped in bloodshed. Once, fierce Viking mercenaries would find themselves in the service of Frankish kings, while Norse settlers in Normandy transformed into Christian lords. The adversaries at the gates would eventually don the armor of knights within the grand courts. It was a twist of fate, a narrative woven with irony, that the same culture which once pillaged the heart of Paris would eventually rise to protect its essence. Yet, woven into the very fabric of the city, a transformation had taken root. The siege led by Ragnar had broken the facade of invulnerability. Paris was not beyond reach. It had been acquired, shattered, and yet somehow preserved, and the city carried that bitter lesson in its heart, etched into the very fabric of its existence. In the echoes of history, every archbishop who blessed a sword, every tax collector who weighed a coin, and every soldier who manned a wall found themselves influenced by the profound events of 845. For when a single individual, equipped solely with steel, flame, and courage, can send ripples through an empire and compel a monarch to yield, the world takes heed, and thus the world was transformed for all time. In the days of yore, the path to redemption was not found within the hallowed walls of a church, but rather forged through the pain of blisters on weary feet. Being a good Christian transcended mere attendance at Mass or the act of confession. It often called for the courage to take each step forward, embarking on a journey that could stretch for hundreds of miles to reach a sacred destination. These journeys were known as pilgrimages, intertwining the sacred with the whimsically tangible. Imagine a humble farmer, his feet bare against the elements, rain pouring, snow falling, and the occasional encounter with cow, done journeying to pay homage to a saint's knucklebone, carefully housed in a shimmering box. What drives the passion? Endless redemption, or perhaps sprinkle of heavenly favor. The church fervently championed pilgrimages, presenting them as a noble path to earn indulgences. Engaged in infidelity? Venture forth to Santiago? Deceived a holy man? Consider Canterbury. Did you take a life? Perhaps you should embark on a journey to Jerusalem and let your feet carry you without pause. Yet the tale was not solely woven from threads of guilt. Pilgrimage may serve as a heartfelt expression of gratitude, a plea for healing, or perhaps merely a clever ruse to escape the confines of your village without facing the stigma of heresy. For women, it was among the rare avenues to journey with a touch of societal approval. For knights, it was a diversion from their quest of vanquishing foes to showcase their sanctity. For countless souls, this was the singular escape they would ever experience. The invitation to embark on a journey manifested in various ways: a vivid dream, an impassioned sermon, or the pointed suggestion of a local priest who would say, perhaps, that divine mercy awaits those who traverse 800 miles, even with aching backs and bare feet. It was a familiar practice for families to dispatch a chosen pilgrim, akin to a form of spiritual delegation. A solitary figure meandering along the path could, it was said, bestow blessings upon the entire clan. Fortunate souls. Once they made their vow, the pilgrims were graced with a blessing and adorned themselves with the unmistakable symbols. A staff in hand, a satchel slung over the shoulder, and a badge that stands out, often resembling a scallop shell or a cross. These symbols set them apart as sacred travelers, not mere drifters. A crucial distinction when seeking shelter in barns and asking for sustenance. Yet, let there be no illusion. A pilgrimage was far from a leisurely walk through the fields. It was a journey woven with fatigue, doubt, and a whisper of hope that, at the journey's end, something extraordinary would await. That is, if the journey didn't claim you first. Before embarking on the dusty road, the medieval pilgrim found themselves at a crossroads, pondering a weighty dilemma. What essentials should you pack for a journey of 1,000 miles on foot, with no Amazon delivery in sight, no waterproof boots to shield your feet, and certainly no snack bars to keep your energy up? The response, minimal in nature, yet still, exceeds what is necessary. Pilgrims carefully stowed their lives into a satchel no larger than a contemporary handbag. The burden loomed large. Each additional tunic added another ounce to bear through the rugged mountains, treacherous swamps, and the perilous woods where bandits lurked. Thus they gathered only the most essential items, a spare linen shift. If fortune smiled upon you, a handful of dried provisions, a flask or water skin, and perhaps, if the fates allowed, a small token of faith to serve as a reminder that your trials were all by design. And so, the staff arrived. This was no ordinary hiking accessory. It was a miraculous stick of many functions. It served as your companion on journeys, a shield against the untamed, a tool to gauge the treacherous depths of muddy terrain, and occasionally a gentle nudge for those dozing off beside you in sacred spaces. Your hat needed to be wide-brimmed, ready to face both sun and rain, and ideally, it should carry a touch of pilgrim chic flair. Extra points if it featured a scallop shell affixed to it, the timeless emblem of the journey to Santiago de Compostela. That shell could open the doors to monasteries, soup kitchens, and even provide you with free hay in barns. Imagine it as your medieval passport, timeless and universally recognized, yet a clear signal that your pockets were likely empty. The plight of footwear was a tale of its own kind. Many of the pilgrims donned sandals or simple leather shoes. Their footwear hardly an improvement over the feel of the earth beneath their feet. Blisters were not just a possibility. They were an inevitable part of the journey. Many swathed their feet in linen, whispering fervent prayers that they would not succumb to decay before arriving at the next sacred shrine. You didn't bring along a great deal of food. Instead, you found solace in the generosity of strangers, the warmth of monasteries, or the camaraderie of fellow travelers. And kindness could take the form of a warm bowl of onion soup, accompanied by a crusty piece of dry bread. If you found yourself too proud to ask for help, well done. Your pride kept you from taking a bite. Perhaps the most vital element was not something you could hold, but rather a letter of pilgrimage. This document, bestowed by the Church, affirmed that you were not merely a wayward drifter. It was your sacred pass, and without it, you could find yourself in the clutches of confinement rather than the embrace of paradise. With weary feet, a heavy burden slung over their shoulder, and a quiet plea whispered to the heavens, the traveler embarked on their journey, for when one prepares for the journey beyond, the notion of traveling light becomes a mere fantasy. Once, you stepped beyond the familiar embrace of your village, or whatever semblance of solace existed in the medieval landscape. You ventured into the sprawling, capricious stage of the open road, and the road remained indifferent to your pleas. Let us embark on a journey through the landscape. In the days of yore, the pathways of the medieval era were far from the roads we know today. They transformed into celebrated trails or treacherous quagmires swayed by the whims of the weather. The rain transformed the world into a thick, savory broth. Amidst the blanket of snow, the wolves lay concealed. Ah, and what of summer? There! The summer sun seared your skin, drawing in every pesky insect from Normandy to Jerusalem. The shadow of bandits loomed ever present. Pilgrims, vulnerable and defenseless, wandered with empty bellies, often clutching meager coins or cherished religious tokens ripe for the taking. A solitary traveler on a journey resembled a wandering vessel of generosity, carrying the essence of giving wherever they roamed. Even journeying alongside others wasn't always without peril. In a clever ruse, a band of thieves donned the garb of fellow pilgrims, seamlessly merging into the crowd. Nothing captures the essence of betrayal quite like being robbed by someone adorned in the very same scallop shell as you. And so, the animals entered the scene. Wolves, bears, wild boars, all poised to impart the lesson that being consumed by nature might just serve as a form of atonement. Dogs wandered the land, not merely as companions to humans, but as fierce guardians, their wild nature evident in their mangy coats and territorial instincts. One misstep in the forest, and you found yourself not merely lost, but on the list of the evening's feast. Yet more perilous than any bandit or beast lurking in the shadows was the seductive pull of temptation. Along the pilgrimage routes, one could find an array of taverns, brothels, and gambling pits, particularly clustered around the bustling towns. In the journey of many pilgrims, there were those who faltered at the very first city, their solemn vows of devotion dissolving into a fog of wine, chance, and sorrow. As expected, the Church expressed its disapproval. But what of the tavern owners? They embraced the descent of your spirit with eager hearts and humble brews, even those who journey alongside. You may present their own challenges. In a world filled with tricksters, opportunists, and those who claim to see beyond the veil, strange visions were traded for mere sustenance. Disputes ignited over the allocation of sleeping quarters, the navigation of paths, and the rather pungent aromas that filled the air. Imagine you're journeying to Rome, and out of nowhere, you're caught up in a passionate discussion about the Virgin Mary with a barefoot fisherman hailing from Flanders, and yet, in the midst of it all, the majority continued on their path. The adventure unfolded as a blend of resilience and a quest for deeper meaning. Each mile soaked in mud, each distant wolf's howl, every temptation faced or shamefully embraced, wove together into the tapestry of the tale, a testament to the sacrifice made. For the sacred was not something to be attained within the walls of the cathedral. Each blistered step in the mud was a testament to the hard-fought journey. After enduring weeks or months of stumbling through grime, starvation, and vice, the wanderer at last beheld it. Above the rolling hills, a spire reaches for the sky. A dome glistens in the sunlight, or perhaps a shimmering shrine stands proud. This is the sacred ground, the very place where legends of miracles are whispered through the ages. And so it was often more modest than one might have anticipated. From the hallowed shrine of St. Thomas Becket in Canterbury to the revered bones of St. James in Santiago de Compostela, and even to the curiously well-preserved toe of St. Margaret. Tucked away in France, the journey may have changed, yet the essence lingered on. Divine excitement. These places were the enchanting realms of the medieval era, where instead of thrilling rides, one could encounter sacred relics, witness candlelight processions, and perhaps even experience the rare spectacle of an exorcism. The relics themselves captivated all who beheld them, yet one must acknowledge that medieval Europe faced quite the challenge with an abundance of relics. Countless fragments of the true cross lay scattered, enough to create an entire forest. Of sacred wood in every corner, whispers echoed of possessing the skull of John the Baptist, with some cities boasting not one but 3 such relics. Yet the essence of genuineness wasn't truly the focus. There existed a belief devout souls would make their way on bended knees, drawn by the sacred relic that beckoned them forward. Some shed tears, while others succumbed to the weight of the moment. Many approached the shrine, their fingers brushing against its surface as they murmured heartfelt pleas: "Heal my blindness, forgive my adultery, ease my aching back." It was thought that saints possessed extraordinary abilities even after their passing, their bones serving as miraculous sources. Much like medieval vending machines dispensing wonders. In the realm of wonders, wealth found its way. Communities that sprang up around these sacred sites flourished greatly. Inns bustled with life. Taverns echoed with laughter, trinket sellers beckoned with their wares, and monks offered blessings. At prices that raised eyebrows, one might find an array of candles, sacred water, protective amulets, and even diminutive flasks, rumored to contain the sweat of saints. For the right price, one might find a swift passage to redemption for their very essence. The church embraced it wholeheartedly. The sacred places of pilgrimage attracted admiration, generous contributions, and a continuous flow of devoted travelers seeking spiritual experiences. Great cathedrals rose, their majestic arches and intricate designs crafted to cradle a solitary toe or a weathered tunic, each a testament to the stories they held within. As the tale of the relic grew more intense, so too did the throngs of eager onlookers. Statues that bleed, verify. Unblemished forms, indeed. Whispering craniums. Indeed, there was a claim made by someone. Yet even within the grand display, numerous pilgrims experienced true wonder. In the hushed glow of candlelight, before a golden reliquary, the journey through the harsh road faded away, and it was as if one had stepped into the very threshold of paradise, though it appeared humble. To a weary spirit, that shrine was a treasure beyond measure. The pilgrimage unfolded as more than a mere spiritual quest. It transformed into a thriving enterprise. With each stride of the traveler, the clink of coins echoed in the air. A melody of commerce and journey intertwined. The inns and taverns bustled with life, while blacksmiths hammered away. Relic vendors displayed their wares, and even the beggars found solace in the steady stream of the devoted. As the seasons turned, throngs of pilgrims would pour into the town, their footsteps echoing through the streets. Each year, this influx breathed life into the local economy, transforming it from mere survival to a vibrant flourishing. Step into the pilgrim trap. In a quaint village, where the shrine stood modest and unassuming, an extraordinary event would unfold a vision. A miracle, or perhaps a goat bringing forth its young, marked by a striking crucifix on its side. Before you could blink, a chapel emerged, candles flickered to life. A figure was demanding 3 denarii for a glimpse of a finger bone that supposedly belonged to some saint or another. Visitors arrived, traders trailed behind, and the church bestowed its approval, all while ensuring it received its fair share of the contributions. Naturally, the most lucrative destinations, such as Santiago de Compostela, transformed into bustling pilgrimage centers. From the shadows of necessity, entire industries emerged. Cloak weavers crafting garments for weary travelers, cobblers mending the worn soles of their shoes, and bakers conjuring loaves of sturdy bread, resilient enough to endure the trials of time. One might stumble upon guides from the medieval era, brave souls who offered their protection and wisdom on the journey, all for a feat at times. They donned the guise of authenticity, while at other moments they revealed themselves as nothing more than elegantly attired bandits armed with a contract. Vendors peddled trinkets by the cartful, little tin badges, crafted in the likeness of the shrine's relic, were donned with pride by pilgrims, marking their journeys much like the travel stickers of a bygone era. One might even opt for replicas. Traverse the entire path. Monasteries wove themselves into the fabric of history, shaping the narrative in profound ways. Rather than serving as sanctuaries for the soul, many functioned as finely tuned establishments of hospitality. Monks would greet pilgrims with warm beds and hearty bowls of soup, though they gently encouraged a token of gratitude in return. Some possessed a true spirit of kindness, while others had a remarkable talent for setting divine prices. And then came the tricksters, the counterfeit treasures, the orchestrated wonders, the phony monks, and the self-proclaimed saints who offered miraculous cures in return for everything you held dear. Pilgrims navigated the delicate balance between unwavering belief and reckless folly, yet the majority joined in with open hearts. They understood the dance, they were woven into its fabric, and, in the end, wasn't their own redemption worth a handful of coins? Ultimately, the journey to paradise may have been adorned with devotion, yet it was crafted from gleaming silver. Though the journey may seem solitary, hardly any travelers ventured forth in complete solitude. In the realm of existence, the guiding principle was that strength lay in unity, a truth woven into the very fabric of life, from the tapestry of life. Clusters emerged naturally, villagers united, tradesmen journeying together, or even strangers bound by a shared limp and a common purpose. Much like a bustling medieval backpacker hostel, these bands created an atmosphere that was chaotic, noisy, and oddly intimate. And they were always full of intrigue. The ebb and flow of the group's interactions danced between heartfelt unity and wild disarray. In one fleeting moment, you found yourself breaking crusty bread beneath the shade of a grand tree, and in the next, your voice rose in a fervent outcry, demanding justice for the theft of your precious turnip. From every corner of society, they gathered, nobles adorned in finery, peasants in humble garb, monks seeking solace, widows bearing their grief, merchants with their wares, and even those who had strayed, seeking redemption. What could possibly unfold in unexpected ways? Despite the challenges of language, a German pilgrim could find companionship in the stride of an English farmer and the grace of a Breton nun. The outcome? There was much gesturing, acting out, and the occasional squabble over who claimed the coveted dry sleeping spot beneath the barn's eaves. Conflicts were frequent. Amidst the feast, in the rhythm of the moment, and in the gleam of the badges, a tale unfolds. Some embraced a vow of silence on their pilgrimage, finding solace in the quietude, until an unexpected stumble over a bag shattered a flask of sacred water, disrupting the peace. In that moment, all promises were cast aside, yet beneath the bickering, a more profound connection frequently emerged. Friendship. Traversing a path laden with muck, affliction, and a sense of the divine often revealed the raw essence of humanity, amidst the absurdity. You both found joy in the same whimsical scenes. In times of illness, you lifted one another with unwavering support. In the shadow of the night, as the wolves' cries echoed ominously nearby, you joined in fervent prayer, seeking solace and strength together. Tears fell as life slipped away. Along the path, a sorrowful occurrence that transpired more frequently than most dared to acknowledge. Amidst the unfolding tale, there emerged instances of peculiar delight. Unplanned melodies fill the air, tales woven in the glow of the flames, moments of generosity from unexpected souls. A loaf passed among friends, a cloak offered in the chill, or a quiet hand resting on a shoulder at a sacred place. There were moments of light amidst the shadows. Some pilgrims shared that the camaraderie was the most cherished aspect of their journey. Many returned home with newfound companions, letters from distant lands, or enchanting tales of that one Italian fellow who could juggle knives while reciting psalms. Others drifted apart silently, taking their leave at a crossroads with a subtle nod and a whispered prayer. For on the journey of the pilgrim, souls drifted in and out like fleeting clouds, yet the adventure continued to unfold, ever onward. Not every traveler journeyed with noble hearts. Indeed, numerous individuals embark on their journeys with heartfelt aspirations, redemption, restoration, a new beginning. Yet, the medieval realm, much like our own, was a tapestry woven with contradictions. Nowhere did devotion and arrogance clash more amusingly than on the pilgrimage path. Some pilgrims focused more on their appearance to others than on the purpose of their journey. These were the ones who ensured that every soul was aware of the distance they had traveled, the depths of their suffering, and the countless prayers uttered over a solitary loaf of stale bread. Modesty. Is it optional? Is it a tale filled with intensity and emotion? Is it indispensable? Then arrive the seekers of style. Indeed, it is true. Wealthy nobles frequently donned the guise of humble travelers, yet their attire revealed their true status. Lavish cloaks, intricately engraved staffs, and finely embroidered satchels told tales of their affluence. They would enlist the help of servants to bear their burdens, and on occasion, they would even mount horses for much of the journey. For what could embody the essence of spiritual turmoil more than a portable feather mattress? As the journey unfolded, some pilgrims trudged through each grueling mile, while others discovered paths that offered both ease and enlightenment. Some engaged carriages for segments of the journey, or compensated others to transport them. Some merely acquired pilgrimage badges from the market, bypassing the entire journey. Why face the dangers of wolves and dysentery when you can simply don a gleaming tin facade and weave a clever tale? Yet, the act of spiritual betrayal bore its own repercussions. The church cast a disapproving gaze upon those it deemed as false. Pilgrims in certain towns, vigilant guards were stationed along the prominent pilgrimage routes, meticulously inspecting documents and discerning the true intentions of travelers. Yet, the application of the rules was inconsistent, and the gaps were plentiful. As long as you struck the right chords and offered the right tokens in the collection box, few dared to inquire. Amidst the deceivers and the flamboyant, true devotion continued to glow brightly. Countless pilgrims poured out their confessions, each day traversing paths barefoot, enduring great discomfort, all in pursuit of the salvation of their souls. Some bore burdens of heavy crosses, while others inflicted pain upon themselves as they journeyed forth. Some journeyed in quietude, while others renounced meat, wine, or even the very act of speaking, all in pursuit of their sacred destination. The boundary separating true devotion from mere display was delicate, frequently muddied by the weight of human nature and the imprints of careless steps. For in the end, the journey of pilgrimage transcended the notion of perfection. It was a tale of perseverance, of arriving despite the struggles, of pushing through the sweat and the pain, perhaps embellishing the truth about your blisters, yet continuing down the path regardless. In the end, each journey reached its conclusion, whether at a sacred site, a resting place, or for the fortunate, the warmth of home. Yet the journey back was not always the glorious homecoming that many had imagined. In the beginning, there existed the tangible truths. Many travelers came back with less to show for their journey, fewer teeth, fewer coins, and a multitude of scars, both seen and unseen. Feet twisted beyond recognition, backs curved like ancient trees, and some bore peculiar ailments with names that danced on the tongue, eluding even the wisest of village healers. You didn't merely bring home a tale of a Flemish man whose snores echoed like a war horn, and so the expectations arrived. With great reverence, villages would welcome back their wandering pilgrims, enveloping them in a tapestry of ceremony and celebration. In this moment, you were meant to embody a greater holiness, to possess wisdom that transcends the ordinary, and to radiate a profound serenity. There were whispers that you should deepen your prayers, cast aside your missteps, and perhaps carry the scent of sacred incense. Instead, many pilgrims found their way back home, weary and hungry, their spirits dampened, and their thoughts turned. More towards ale than the divine, some returned with a heavy heart. They journeyed through countless miles, pressed their lips to the relics of a saint, shed tears at the sacred altar, and yet nothing shifted. Neither a miracle nor a divine whisper graced the moment. Their affliction lingered on. Their guilt hung in the air, a shadow that refused to fade. The sole sensation of buoyancy came from their wallet. For these travelers, disillusionment struck with the force of a marauder's blow. Yet some emerged changed, their essence reshaped. Not due to artifacts or ceremonies, but because of the journey itself. With each step taken, day after day, encountering new faces and exploring far-off places, their perception of the world blossomed, like a flower in the sun. Some wove tales, while others sought solace in monasteries. Some found themselves embracing a newfound patience for the clamor of their neighbors' boisterous chickens. The journey imparted lessons of humility, empathy, and endurance that no sermon ever could convey. And let us not overlook the glory of boasting rights. In the village tavern, pilgrimage badges adorned the patrons, gleaming like shields of valor, a scallop shell in a tin hailing from Santiago. That certainly deserved a complimentary drink. A fragment of fabric from Jerusalem? You would weave that tale into the fabric of your life, sharing it until your very last breath. Regardless of whether the journey transformed your essence, it undoubtedly elevated your standing. Even those who had stumbled or faltered along the way discovered an unexpected tranquility in their efforts. The endeavor transformed into the gift. For in the days of yore, to come back from a pilgrimage, whether transformed or not, signified a singular truth. You ventured down the path to paradise, and against all odds, returned unscathed. Have flowed like a river, and jet planes now soar where once blistered feet tread. The whispers of medieval pilgrimage continue to weave their influence through the fabric of our world. In its era, pilgrimage transcended mere personal exploration. It served as a vibrant force within the tapestry of culture. The paths of the Camino de Santiago, Via Francigena, and the road to Canterbury wove a tapestry that united medieval Europe. Travelers journeyed across borders, exchanged tales, mingled their languages, and unwittingly laid the groundwork for something transformative, collective European essence. The journey of pilgrims led to the enhancement of roads they constructed, hostels and hospitals for their needs. Once upon a time, humble villages blossomed into vibrant towns, villages transformed into bustling cities. Commerce trailed behind the pilgrims' weary footsteps, lingering in the air long after their departure. In the present day, numerous contemporary highways follow the ancient routes once worn by countless medieval travelers. The journey of pilgrimage transformed the very essence of how individuals perceive their beliefs. In days gone by, the path to salvation lay hidden, sealed away behind the heavy doors of the church, and whispered in the ancient tongue of Latin prayers. Yet the journey transformed it into something you could feel. One could take a step in its direction. One might endure great trials because of it. 1 mile at a time, you could earn it. Yet, the legacy transcended mere physical or spiritual realms. It resonated with the essence of humanity. The journey of the pilgrim unfolded as a vivid tapestry of struggle and transformation. Capturing the bittersweet, often absurd dance of striving for improvement, it was never about achieving flawlessness. It was a tale of movement, of intention, of arriving in a state that was both imperfect and filled with hope. Even now, souls traverse those time-worn paths. Some embark on this journey for the sake of fitness, others for the sheer joy of it, and some, driven by loss, seek solace in the moments that allow them to reflect and heal. The scallop shell continues to grace backpacks and walking sticks, a symbol of journeys taken and stories yet to unfold. The trailside hostels continue to embrace the weary wanderers. The prayers, though now murmured in various languages, continue to ascend into the heavens above those familiar worn paths. Even those who have never set foot on a pilgrimage can sense its profound significance in our culture. In the realms of literature, film, and the vast expanse of social media, we witness the profound journeys of individuals as they embark on quests of self-discovery, bravely shedding their pasts to uncover their true selves. For the medieval pilgrim, the journey held more significance than the destination itself. It was a journey of transformation. The legacy endures, not within the monuments, but in the decision to continue the journey, even when the journey stretches endlessly. The shoes chafe, and the wonders seem just out of reach. Perhaps the true treasure lay not in a saint's bone, encased within a box. It was the wanderer who made their way back, still fractured, yet moving forward all the same, in a realm devoid of weekend football matches or celebrity boxing. The medieval tournament stood as the pinnacle of spectacle, and nothing stirred the noble class's excitement quite like the arrival of an official tournament proclamation. Wax-sealed, finely scripted, and delivered by a herald on horseback, this was no mere invitation. It was a summons steeped in grandeur, challenge that beckoned to the masses. Should you be a knight of true merit, your very honor would compel you to arrive and be unceremoniously cast from your steed. Every tournament was a tale waiting to unfold. They unfolded with the meticulous precision of a small, epic journey, in grand halls adorned with opulence. Local lords and mighty monarchs welcomed their guests, eager to display their riches, forge alliances, and perhaps find suitable matches for their unmarried daughters. Days, and at times weeks, were devoted to grand celebrations filled with feasting. Jousting, melees, archery, vibrant pageantry, and a delightful touch of chaos. For the valiant knights who found themselves in possession of these invitations, the stakes loomed large. A tournament was a stage where legends were born or broken. It's often accompanied by the sound of cracking bones. It was a moment to showcase not just prowess and courage, but also a flair for style, all under the keen gaze of noble ladies, esteemed lords, and competing knights. A solitary triumph might open the door to marriage offers, land bestowals, or, at the very least, a handful of verses composed in your praise by a minstrel strumming a lute. Yet, invitation was not extended to all. One had to possess a lineage of distinction, or at the very least, master the art of pretense. The heraldry was examined. The lineage was a topic of lively discussion. It was unthinkable for a mere commoner to slip through the gates, adorned in a forged coat of arms. What a twist that would have been. Tale of scandal and perhaps even humiliation if he emerged victorious. The stage was set without delay. The armor gleamed with a polished sheen. The horses underwent training. Artisans of fabric were called forth. A knight was not only required to wield his sword with skill, but he also had to embody the very essence of chivalry and valor in his appearance. Your surcoat must shine with brilliance. Your family emblem needed to be seen from 50 paces away, and your lance had to be perfectly balanced to the ounce. Echoes of rivalries danced alongside the invitation. Did Sir Baldwin offend Sir Geoffrey's sister during the last tournament? Did Sir Roland still harbor resentment for being unseated by a younger knight with more lustrous locks? The scores would be settled amidst the thunderous gallop of hooves and the resounding clash of steel. As the wax seal shattered, the knight felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. For the tournament was not merely a game. It was a battle, dressed in civility. With the announcement of the tournament, the true journey commenced. And for the knights, it signified the beginning of their rigorous training. Fierce, unyielding, and occasionally tinged with madness, the training unfolds. For all the splendor and ritual that adorned the tournaments, beneath it all lay a raw and primal clash of power. A dance of organized violence upon the backs of mighty steeds. And if you found yourself unprepared, it wasn't merely a matter of losing. Before 1,000 eager eyes, and perhaps even a duchess, you were poised to consume the very earth beneath your feet. In the beginning, the joust unfolds. The legendary occasion. 2 knights charged forth, lances poised, intent on shattering not just armor, but the very essence of honor and strength. Yet achieving a successful strike was far from a mere act of reckless abandon. It took countless hours of relentless drilling. In the dim light of dawn, knights honed their skills against wooden quintons, those rotating targets adorned with shields on one side, while a heavy sandbag loomed ominously on the other. Strike the shield with insufficient force, and you have met with failure. Strike it off center, and the sandbag whirled around, delivering a sharp thud to your head. Inspiring drive. Harmony was paramount. Picture this. You're astride a galloping steed, the wind whipping through your hair as you prepare to launch a 12-foot lance at a target that dances just out of reach. The thrill of the chase ignites your spirit, and every heartbeat echoes the challenge ahead. The journey was one of fortifying the core, honing the rhythm, and forging a bond with your horse so profound that it felt as though you could anticipate each other's thoughts. A jittery or lethargic horse could spoil your entire scene and your thigh bone. From their steeds, the knights engaged in a fierce display of skill, clashing swords, axes, and maces as they readied themselves for the impending melee. A clash of teams where the rules are few and the bruises are plenty. This was the moment in the tournament that mirrored the chaos of true combat. It might stretch on for hours, featuring a multitude of combatants, often concluding with dislocated shoulders, broken noses, or noblemen rendered unconscious being pulled from the muck by their loyal squires. And the squires, they too embarked on their training journey. They held the weight of it all upon their shoulders, carrying heavy armor, caring for noble steeds, passing weapons in the heat of battle, and mending wounds with a blend of nature's remedies and urgency. A skilled squire can tip the scales from triumph to disgrace. A clumsy one might mistakenly offer you your ceremonial sword instead of the one forged for battle. Ah, a little slip, it seems. The journey of training was fraught with exhaustion, peril, and at times the shadow of death itself. Yet the knights embraced it as an integral part of their sacred code. You didn't merely prepare to conquer, you prepared to endure. For all the sweet melodies that painted a picture of romance, tournaments were far from the gentle tales of chivalry they seemed to be. They were arenas of conflict, each with its own prescribed attire. Before the first lance met its fate, the tournaments had already transformed into a grand stage of elegance and flair. Knights didn't merely show up. They swept in with grandeur in every detail. From their surcoats to the intricate embroidery on their horse blankets conveyed a singular message, current situation. You were more than a mere combatant. You embodied a legacy and the Hugh's emblems. An attire you donned resonated more profoundly than any battle shout. At the core of this grand tale was the art of heraldry, a tapestry woven from the threads of a resume, an Instagram profile, and a sports jersey, all intertwined in the rich fabric of medieval life. Emblems and standards showcased your lineage with lions symbolizing bravery, crosses representing devotion, and fantastical creatures embodying the aspirations of those eager to make their mark. Each hue and design whispered a tale of significance. Crimson symbolizes courage, gilded hues represent kindness, while ebony embodies sorrow or retribution. Or perhaps it was the way it shimmered and danced in the sunlight that captivated you. These symbols served a purpose beyond mere decoration. They were essential for recognizing knights concealed beneath their heavy armor. Though you may be clad in armor, your face hidden behind a visor, the dust of the joust swirling around you, it is your heraldic device that speaks volumes. It reveals not only who is facing defeat, but also whose honor is being elevated or tarnished. Before the eager eyes of the spectators, and oh, the audience. Competitions unfolded like a grand performance for all to witness. The vibrant pavilions, nobles, townsfolk, visiting merchants, and romantic hopefuls gathered, their eyes sparkling with anticipation as they awaited the arrival of those who might embody the essence of a hero. In a time of valor and chivalry, knights would frequently enlist the talents of skilled tailors to craft magnificent surcoats and caparisons that dazzled the eye. That's exquisite equine protection, should you be unacquainted with the nuances of medieval attire. Vivid hues, shimmering strands, elaborate stitching transformed the lists into a dazzling display of chainmail and confidence. Yet it transcended mere personal branding. It was a tale of politics. Your garments whispered of connections. With whom you shared a meal, whom your benefactor was. A knight may don his lady's scarf, gracefully tied to his arm, a charming display of unwavering devotion and the bonds of society. Some displayed foreign fashions as a testament to their adventures in distant realms. Silk woven from the lands of the rising sun, that signified a badge of honor for the brave. Gloves lined with fur, perhaps merely putting on a display. Armor, indeed, played a role in the realm of style, beyond mere utility. It was crafted with care, frequently adorned with intricate engravings or inlays of precious metals. A noble knight could stride into battle, shining brilliantly like a magnificent chandelier, while his less fortunate counterpart merely prayed that his battered helmet would stay in place during the charge. In the realm of tournaments, presenting oneself well was a necessity. It was a masterful plan. Before a single lance was lowered or a sword drawn, the tournament commenced with a spectacle so grand that it rendered royal coronations mere backyard gatherings. Behold the grand procession. A magnificent spectacle unfolding before our eyes, a slow-moving parade adorned with the splendor of egos. Armor and heraldry, crafted to captivate, daunt, and enchant the eager onlookers. Knights journeyed in a solemn line, their banners dancing in the breeze, steeds draped in elegant finery, while squires hurried along in a flurry of anxious energy. As the heralds proclaimed each knight's name, their voices rang out with flair, embellishing the announcements with colorful tales such as "Victor of 3 past tournaments," or "He who once split a man's helmet clean in half." There was no room for humility in the air. From their silk-draped stands, the ladies of the court observed the contenders with keen eyes. Much like discerning talent scouts of a bygone era, esteemed lords assessed the worth of those who might stand beside them or oppose them. Amidst the jubilant crowd of villagers, wagers began to emerge, each one a whisper of anticipation in the air. Would Sir Geoffrey send that arrogant Italian tumbling from his steed once more? Could it be that someone might tumble from their steed during the grand opening bow? Ah, the thrill of the unknown, where the journey unfolds in delightful surprises. Once the parade had concluded, the oaths were taken. One by one, brave knights approached the tournament judge, a figure of high nobility, or perhaps even royalty, and pledged their unwavering commitment to the chivalric code. Such rules dictated the honor of the duel: no striking a man who had lost his helmet, no attacking from behind, certainly no stabbing an opponent once he had fallen to the ground. Well, it's all about the fundamentals of maintaining a semblance of sanity. These oaths were not mere formalities. They stood as bold proclamations of integrity for all to witness. To breach these rules may lead to penalties, exclusion, or finding oneself the focus of a rather unkind tale. However, we must face the truth. While numerous knights spoke with sincerity, some were already crafting their vows in the quiet corners of their minds. I promise to tread lightly, but should anyone dare to insult my noble steed, they shall feel the weight of my resolve. Some tournaments infused a vibrant energy into the age-old ritual. In the realm of chivalry, knights often vow their unwavering loyalty to a lady fair, dedicate their noble deeds to a revered saint, or make solemn promises, such as never retreating in battle or fasting until they claim victory. Ah, the essence of love and longing, where hearts intertwine and dreams take flight. A dance of souls, wrapped in the warmth of affection, where every glance speaks volumes and every whisper carries the weight of unspoken promises. A tale as old as time, yet ever fresh, painting the world in hues of passion and tenderness. Indeed, audacious typically. The grand procession and solemn oaths laid the foundation for what was to unfold. They transformed knights into vivid personas, rivals into compelling tales, and the arena into a dynamic narrative. For the audience of the medieval era, this was far more than mere sport. It was a grand spectacle, a dance of dramatized conflict adorned with lavish attire, all woven together with a profound lesson at its core. This was the moment, the centerpiece of the tale. A silence enveloped the crowd. The triumphant sound of trumpets filled the air, heralding the imminent clash of two knights. With hearts pounding and determination in their eyes, they readied themselves to charge at full speed, each wielding a 12-foot wooden lance, praying to avoid the fate of becoming mere remnants of the past. The joust emerged not merely as the pinnacle of the tournament, but as a tale woven into the fabric of legend, complete with splinters and the rare, yet thrilling skull fracture in the grand arena known as the tilt yard, a sturdy wooden barrier stretched across the center, a clever design meant to keep the noble steeds from colliding in a fierce clash. On either side, knights stood tall upon their steeds, each clad in armor that gleamed like the intricate stonework of a grand cathedral. With helmets secured and visors down, lances poised for action, the air was filled with the sound of a trumpet's blast and the herald's call, signaling the moment they charged forth. What is the aim? Deliver a precise blow to your adversaries. Shield, chest, or helmet. A precisely aimed strike could shatter your lance into a cascade of dramatic wooden shards, drawing applause from the audience and accolades from the judges, dislodging your adversary from their steed. That was the pinnacle of excellence. Yet let there be no illusion, this was perilous. Lances may have lost their sharpness, but even dulled wood strikes with unforgiving force when hurtling at 30 miles per hour toward your sternum. Injuries were a frequent occurrence. Fractured limbs, splintered ribs, head injuries, and teeth sent tumbling so far they turned into memories of a fierce battle. Helmets crumpled in like the bottoms of ale cups. Once upon a time, a fateful knight met his demise, tragically impaled through the eye slit. This unfortunate incident sparked a wave of new and stricter armor regulations, forever changing the course of knightly attire. Yet, despite the perils that lay ahead, the knights continued to return, drawn by an unyielding call to adventure. For it was not merely the pursuit of honor that drove them to the tilt, but the quest for status that fueled their ambition. A triumph in the arena could herald immediate renown. Patronage may be bestowed by the nobles. Women may extend their kindness. Your name could very well find its way into the verses of a bard's passionate love ballad, forever etched in melody and rhyme. Imagine, if you will, a landless knight on a quest for glory. A series of daring tilts might just be the key to unlocking a path to power and prestige. Yet jousting was not merely a display of raw strength. It was a challenge that demanded impeccable precision, perfect timing, and unwavering mastery over your steed. One misstep, and you found yourself tumbling through a whirlwind of embarrassment and grime. And still, amidst the agony, the marks, and the looming threat of a jab to the spleen, jousting stood as the heart of chivalric tradition. For a valiant knight, there was no greater testament to bravery than being unceremoniously thrown from a steed in the presence of one's beloved. While the joust showcased a dance of skill and precision, the melee erupted into a chaotic clash, a wild gathering where swords and shields collided in a frenzy. Envision it as a chaotic dance of collaboration. In a vast open field, a multitude of knights divided into two fierce factions gallantly surged toward one another. Their weapons, swords, axes, maces, clashed with a fervor reminiscent of the wildest tavern brawls, each warrior fueled by a chaotic zeal that echoed through the air. There existed guidelines indeed, yet they felt more akin to gentle nudges. To refrain from taking a life, for instance, felt less like a strict rule and more like a soft nudge in the right direction. The clash was designed to evoke the essence of true combat, stripped of the arrows and the cries of the common folk. In the grand arenas of valor, knights clashed, some in tight-knit formations, while others chose the path of solitary combat. Whether mounted upon noble steeds or grounded on foot, their battles unfolded in rounds that persisted until a voice rang out to end the fray, or until the last warrior, weary and resolute, could fight no more. The aims were diverse. At times it unfolded like an untamed adventure, a chaotic dance of spontaneity at times. Groups clashed in a quest to seize a standard, a banner, or a token, or to save a figure symbolizing a damsel in distress. Ah, the noble art of chivalry, do you recall?
Oh.
Though it lacked the allure of jousting, the melee bestowed upon knights a distinct form of renown. It revealed raw power, unwavering stamina, clever strategy. Imagine the thrill of displaying your mastery with the sword, the grace of your horsemanship, and the sheer resilience it takes to withstand the relentless blows from fellow knights clad in armor. It was magnificent, it was draining, and it was perilous. Injuries were a certainty. Helmets splintered, shields fractured, bones broke. In the heat of battle, some melees became so fierce that knights were left unconscious, dragged from the fray, or simply remained motionless on the ground. Yet as long as no one met their end by design, it was merely a chapter in the unfolding tale. Squires flitted about with the urgency of a well-oiled machine, delivering fresh weapons, rescuing knights from the muck, and guiding horses away from the chaos of battle. As the scene unfolded, nobles and ladies reclined in their shaded pavilions, their goblets filled with wine, voices rising in cheers for their favorite champions. For what could be more romantic than witnessing the moment when someone receives a playful elbow to the helmet? For those without land and the younger sons, melee presented a chance of a lifetime. In the midst of turmoil, where the clash of swords and the roar of the crowd intertwine, one might find their true brilliance, even if the joust slips from their grasp. Victory could bring forth treasures, protective gear, and perhaps the favor of a distinguished patron. To lose was merely to bear the marks of battle, a testament to the struggle, accompanied by a few weeks of limping, filled with prayers and reflections on the journey. In a realm captivated by glory and grandeur, it was within the melee that the essence of true grit revealed itself. For what could embody the essence of chivalry more than vanquishing foes with a sturdy branch while exuding an air of elegance? Let us speak truthfully. Significant reason knights endured bruised ribs and shattered egos was for the allure of glory. Yet there lies another chapter. The women observed intently. Tournaments were more than mere contests of battle. In those vibrant arenas, every knight understood that their actions could yield rewards far beyond mere gold. It might garner affection, respect, or perhaps even lead to a well-timed proposal of alliance. In the interludes of the tournament, when the battles paused, the air was thick with the promise of flirtation and the thrill of performance. Noble women were not merely spectators, idly fanning themselves and presenting a pretty facade. They fully engaged in the vibrant spectacle. In the days of yore, countless knights would pledge their valor to the lady who captured their heart, often adorning their lances with a scarf, veil, or cherished token from her hand. A poignant emblem of their unwavering devotion, this was not merely sweet, it was a masterful orchestration. When the knight triumphed, the lady basked in the shared glory. Should he find himself unseated in a grand fashion, at least she had not vowed to be tied to him alone. Women received accolades as well. Adorn, tokens, or a gentle peck upon the cheek for the champion. The audience devoured it eagerly. Elegant ceremonies served to strengthen the noble principles of chivalry, struggling for affection, for grace, for a cause greater than mere self-importance. Naturally, it was quite advantageous that the enchanting figure was nestled within a velvet pavilion, attended by servants and enveloped in opulence, while you found yourself perspiring into a steel bucket. Yet, the affection found amidst the tournaments often danced on the edge of innocence. Whispers of romance flourished, clandestine messages exchanged hands, the nobility indulged in gossip, while certain knights crafted their paths through the art of seduction, cloaked in the guise of noble devotion. The church voiced its disapproval with fervor, yet that never deterred the determined souls. And then came the bards. Wandering bards journeyed from one grand event to another, weaving tales of valor and love's misfortunes into melodic verses. Should you triumph in both the joust and the affections of a duchess, your name could resonate in ballads for generations to come. Should you find yourself unseated from your steed in an attempt to captivate a baroness, rest assured that tale too has woven its way into the ballads, albeit with an abundance of mirth. In a realm where prestige reigned supreme, the gaze of noblewomen held the power to elevate or shatter a knight's standing. A soft-spoken praise from the right woman can hold more significance than a chest of gold. In the arena of public sentiment, love transformed into more than a mere battlefield. It became an integral part of the grand tournament, amidst the grand declarations and the allure of romance. Tournaments unfolded as a chaotic tapestry, woven with threads of politics, physicality, and moral dilemmas. Amidst the shining armor and fluttering banners, a hidden realm of intrigue, deception, and unbridled medieval turmoil thrived just out of sight. Let us embark on the tale of betrayal. Knights were meant to uphold the code of honor. There shall be no striking of an unarmed foe, no lethal strikes, and no underhanded tactics. Yet it seemed that honor had a peculiar tendency to dissolve when wealth and status were at stake. In the shadows of the arena, some competitors cunningly fortified their lances with hidden metal cores, transforming them into formidable weapons that were not only more perilous, but also far less prone to shatter. Some would play tricks with their armor, stripping away padding for swiftness, or intentionally blunting their rival's sword before the contest began. What if a knight found himself burdened with a score to settle? The unexpected ferocity. In the arena was a familiar tale. In a realm where chaos threatened to reign, officials endeavored to maintain harmony, while marshals roamed the fields like vigilant sentinels. Heralds chronicled each clash, and when disagreements arose, they found resolution before the esteemed eyes of noble judges. Yet, the power of bribes was truly remarkable. A cleverly placed pouch of silver could transform a disqualification into a mere reprimand, particularly if the knight in question was affluent, influential, or hosting a grand feast that very evening. Then arrived the mishaps, frequently blending seamlessly with the deceit. Lances broke apart in unexpected ways. Helmets soared into the air. The horses fell to the ground. In a tale of valor and tragedy, one knight met his fate when a lance splinter pierced through the eye slit of his helm, ending his life in an instant. Another fell with such force that he bit his tongue in two, rendering him mute for all eternity. These were not mere anomalies. They were woven into the fabric of danger, and the knights were all too aware of it. And yet no event captivated the audience quite like a public scandal. Rivalries took on a deeper meaning. As night fell, the camps erupted into chaos, with drunken brawls igniting like wildfires among the shadows. In a realm where secrets danced in the shadows, knights and noblewomen engaged in clandestine romances, treasures were seized in the dead of night. Identities were cleverly masked, and one daring woman took on the guise of a knight to prove her mettle in the arena. Upon her discovery, she was cast out from the ranks, yet not before triumphing in 2 contests and leaving a trail of humiliation among several noblemen. The clerics cast disapproving glances at the entire spectacle. They spoke of tournaments as breeding grounds for vanity, violence, and sin. They spoke the truth. Yet their voices were drowned out, for the nobility reveled in the spectacle. The masses craved the crimson, and the knights relished the opportunity to don the mantle of heroism until the moment of visor shattered. In reality, despite its grand facade, the tournament was never solely about glory. It was a thrilling contest, where deception, danger, and whispers flowed freely with the entry fee. As the late Middle Ages unfolded, tournaments transformed from gritty war drills into grand spectacles, resembling theatrical performances more than mere training, and embodying pageantry rather than danger. What began as a training ground for knights transformed into a vibrant spectacle of medieval fame. And like all captivating tales, it adapted and flourished through the ages. In the beginning, tournaments unfolded as wild melees, designed to echo the fierce realities of battle. Brave knights sharpened their skills for the battles that lay ahead, galloping in unison, evading arrows, and delivering powerful blows. Yet, as the art of war evolved, so too did the grand spectacle of the tournament. As the ages turned, the weight of plate armor grew, swords transformed into symbols of grandeur, and lances dulled in their sharpness. The event transformed, moving away from the gritty realities of battle to embrace the art of refined spectacle. In the 14th and 15th centuries, tournaments took on an air of grandeur, akin to a magnificent royal spectacle. Intricate garments, adorned shields, personalized armor etched with holy figures and family crests. The nobles seated in the stands sought not the tale of gritty survival. They yearned for a captivating performance. Imagine a world where the thrill of wrestling meets the clanking of chainmail in a grand display of power and prestige. Monarchs started to organize tournaments, shifting their purpose from mere military preparation to the intricate dance of diplomacy. It served as a grand showcase of affluence, a means to forge bonds, and a source of amusement for esteemed visitors from afar. In the grand tapestry of history, one finds Henry VIII of England, a figure who reveled in the thrill of tournaments, particularly when he took to the field as the jouster himself, until, of course, a head injury from a particularly nasty tilt may have forever changed the essence of who he was. A little mishap. Yet, as the thunderous roar of gunpowder echoed across the battlefield and the noble era of chivalric knights began to wane, the significance of the tournament gradually diminished. Firearms rendered armor useless, cavalry charges dwindled, and knocking your cousin off a horse simply couldn't ready you for the thunder of cannon fire. Yet, the echoes of the tournament remained, weaving their way through the fabric of time. It gave life to timeless icons, the chivalrous knight, the cherished token of the maiden, the radiant suit of steel. It wove its influence through the tapestry of literature, from the enchanting tales of Arthurian legend to the profound depths of Shakespearean drama. And even today, whispers linger in the air. Renaissance fairs, jousting, reenactments, and fantasy fiction, brimming with noble duels and grand tournaments, await the imagination. Whenever a character in a tale brandishes, a lancer confronts an adversary amidst a roaring audience, they are tapping into the rich tapestry of medieval tradition. Though the tournament may have stepped back from the forefront of court calendars, its legacy weaves an undeniable tale that lingers on. It wove together the threads of violence and honor, blending chaos with choreography, transforming the raw brutality of the battlefield into a captivating spectacle. For in the grand tapestry of time, medieval tournament transcended mere knightly training, wove together tales of valor, sprinkled with the essence of blood, tinged with whispers of scandal, and adorned with an abundance of flair.